Senator Arch.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to George W. Norris Legislative Chamber for the 70th day of the 106th Legislature First Session. Our chaplain for today is Father Brian Connor, who's pastor of the North American Martyrs Parish in Lincoln, Nebraska, Senator Hilger's district. Please rise.
Let us pray. Heavenly Father, we pause to come into your awesome presence on this National Day of Prayer. We thank you for our great country, the United States of America, and for the wonderful state of Nebraska, where we can pray and worship you in freedom and love. We thank you for your Son, Jesus Christ, who gave us the example and commandment of love, who laid down his life for us on the cross, suffered, died, and then rose on Easter, conquering sin and death. In this Easter season, mindful of the many post-resurrection gospel stories, we ask Jesus to shine new life and love on us and on our own families and narratives. Bless all those we serve, and especially those who are hurting. We continue to lift up our fellow Nebraskans who from the flood have experienced devastation, death, and destruction of property. We ask that our neighbors, families, and friends continue to reach out to show them love and hope as they put their lives back together over time. We also pray for those who are sick, having surgery, those who struggle with mental illness or addictions, or have lost loved ones. Bless and guide the men and women of this legislature today and all our elected officials. Help them to be inspired by the Holy Spirit and wisdom to continue to make Nebraska a truly outstanding place to live, work, and raise a family. We ask this through Christ our Lord. Amen.
Thank you, Father Connor. I call to order the 70th day of the 106th Legislature First Session. Senators, please record your presence. Roll call. Mr. Clerk, please record.
There is a quorum present, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Are there any corrections for the journal?
No corrections this morning.
Thank you, sir. Are there any messages, reports, or announcements?
Mr. President, 2 items. A report of registered lobbies for the current week as required by statute, and announcement that various agency reports have been filed electronically and available on the legislative website. That's all I have this morning.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. While the legislature is in session and capable of transacting business, I propose to sign and do hereby sign LR 93. Senator Blood, for what purpose you rise?
Point of privilege, sir.
Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. President. So I would like to announce that yesterday we welcomed Samuel Joseph on the outside at 5:33 p.m. He was 9 pounds, 6 ounces, 21 1/4 inches long, and my 9th grandchild.
Thank you, Senator Blood. Senator Stinner, for what purpose you rise?
Well, after yesterday, I'm not sure how to do this, so I'm going to make an announcement. How's that? This is the 70th day we've delivered the budget to the floor, and we also have in my hand Cosmic Orange Budget Book. You can't lose this. But anyway, it's going to be passed out by the pages, so everybody will have a copy of that 4 days. Did you have to review the contents? We're going to have a briefing then on Tuesday. I think it's room 1510, I believe, at 9 o'clock. Tom Berquist, fiscal staff, myself will be there for the briefing. And I believe that the speaker has got it scheduled. The budget hearing debate will start on Wednesday. So enjoy.
Thanks, Senator Stinner. Senator Bossman announces Dr. Aaron Lanik of Wahoo, Nebraska is serving us today as family physician today. Dr. Lanik is with us under the north balcony. Dr. Lanik, please rise. We can thank you and welcome you to the Nebraska Legislature. Speaker Scheer.
Thank you, Mr. President. Colleagues, as usual, last day of the week, I'll give you an idea of what we're looking at for next week. For those of you that were planning on coming tomorrow, please don't. And if you were thinking about Monday, stay home and sleep in. As Senator Stinner had noted, we will be convening at 10 o'clock on Tuesday to allow everyone to go to the briefing at 9 that day. On Tuesday, it will be my intention, if all works out, that LB 289 will be on the floor Tuesday afternoon at 1:30. Having said that, the caveat is the bill is, I believe, down from bill drafting. They're reviewing it, depending upon if it comes back in the format they want. As long as it can be read in today, we will work on it Tuesday afternoon. If it is not read in this morning, then it will be pushed back after the budget. A reminder that the Revenue Committee is also having a briefing today on 289, I believe in 1510 at 1 o'clock. Is that correct? Okay. There are 2 additional bills that will show up next week. I'm not sure that we will get to them next week. One is 519, Senator Slama's, and the other is 462, Senator Friesen's. Wednesday morning, we will begin debate on the budget bills. We will continue through Wednesday. It could end up being a later night. My hope is not to get too late in the evening. I will be holding Thursday morning open on my scheduling for the debate on the budget. If it does follow through the next day, we will have the morning of Thursday to work on. Thursday afternoon, we will go back to a couple bills that tie into the budget process. One would be, I believe it's 300, which is the judges' salaries. There is also the TIOSA bill and adjustments that have to be passed as well to be coincide with the budget. Both of those need to be acted upon. But we will not be late nights on either Tuesday or Thursday night, or Wednesday would be the only one that would be a later evening. On Friday, we will be doing the consent calendar. Those bills will be listed on Thursday's agenda when it comes out Wednesday night. So you'll have a little advance notice on those to give you a day to review those at your leisure. Again, have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest. Next week will be a fairly heavy push. So get some rest. Go for a walk by yourself, clear yourself up, and come back ready to do something. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, the chocolate treats being distributed on the floor in celebration of the birth of the 9th grandchild of Senator Carol Blood. Thank you very much, Senator Blood. Members, we're going to proceed to final reading. If you could please be at your desk for final reading. We will commence final reading. Mr. Clerk, first bill is LB 6.
In course, Bill 6, introduced by Law 30, Garrett 40, Lennon 39, Crawford 45. A bill for necessitating post-secondary education, amendment section 85502. By keeps up 2018, change residence requiring college to person spouse, legal dependent person of any armed service prescribed in a regular person second. In equity base section 1, section 85506, the new government board post-secondary equipment minimums bring not even a resident in the state for purpose of 85501-504, listed as some intention to make the state permanent resident supported by document approved. Parent, parent, guardian, some that is upon the final attendant, some permanent resident supported by document approved, some that matriculation by secondary education, the listed to make the state permanent resident supported by document approved. Such as local is dependent on federal income tax. The parents are going to establish a home in Nebraska and they have no resident bona fide to make against saying that permanent resident supported by document approved is a permanent resident provided by document something that certain listen to the federal established home in Nebraska berkeley is 180 days and there is some that are supported by document approved is up to meet brother some that out of state locations some that is a duty station in Nebraska some that like Sunday purpose some that is American simple secondary education preserving the national some that class size diploma in the state. And she would put the three residency or something to go to high school diploma and something to Levato and 6 for Watson semester. By the state for secondary education, then if I was in a final application, become permanent resident, then operating eligible to do so. Parent guardian can something to something to bona fide and that's something to permanent by the document approved. Section 2, original section 85502, revised statute keeps up 2018 is repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 6 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Urban, Friesen, Geist, Gregor, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quiggs, Lama, Sinner, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting Senators Hilkeman, Lowe, Scheer, and Vargas. Senator Hilkeman voting yes. Senator Scheer voting yes. Vote is 47 ayes, no nays, 1 present, not voting, 1 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 6 passes. Members, the second round of treats being distributed on the floor are in celebration of the birthday of Senator Slama. Happy birthday, Senator Slama. Proceeding now to LB 130. Mr. Clerk, the first vote is dispense with the at-large reading. Those in favor of dispensing of the reading, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, please.
37A, 7A to dispense with the at-large reading.
The at-large reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Ingress Law Bill 130, introduced by DeBoer 10 Hanson, M. 26-13, a bill for enacting new building construction standards, amend section 716403, 716404, 716406, 763501, 763502, 763503, 763504, 763505, reissued by statute of Nebraska, change provision in the state building code, to prevent radon testing, new construction standards, provide change and eliminate definitions, to restate intent, to eliminate a task force, provide reporting requirements to the Department of Health and Human Services, to harmonize provisions and repeal the original sections.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with. The question is, shall LB 130 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Guys, Gregor, Halloran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Helkeman, Howard, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, Lathrop, Linston, Linhan, McCollister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, Senator Clements, Erdman, Roney, and Lowe. Not voting, Senators Arch, Hilgers, Hughes, LaGrone, and Vargas. Vote is 40 yeas, 4 nays, 4 present, not voting, 1 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 130 passes. Next bill is LB 130A.
Ingress Law Bill 130A, and by DeBoer 10, a bill for narcotic appropriation appropriate carrying out the period law 130 under the second first session 2019, made occupied by section 1. Senate Group from the 66,600 in the Health and Human Service Cash Fund, fiscal year 2019-20, 89,695 in the Health and Human Service in the fiscal year 2020, the Department of Health and Human Service Program 33 to carry out the original letter of 130, 106 letter for session 2019. Total expenditure per number of sessions pertains to the fund appropriated in this section to not exceed 36,747 fiscal year 2019-20 or 48,996 fiscal year 2021.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with. The question is, shall LB 130A pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Halloran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Helkeman, Howard, Hunt, Kolaski, Colderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McCollister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, Senator Clements, Erdman, Roney, and Lowe. Not voting, Senators Arch, Hilgers, Hughes, LaGrone, and Vargas. Vote is 40 ayes, 4 nays, 4 present, not voting, 1 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 130A passes. Our next bill is LB 138. Mr. Clerk, the first vote is dispense with the at-large reading. Those in favor of dispensing with the reading, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, please.
36 ayes, 7 nays to dispense with the at-large reading.
The at-large reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Engrossed Bill 138, introduced by Blood 3, Lynn Henry, Crawford 45, Pandy Works 28. Bill for Next Related Government 1630-102, reissued by statute Nebraska, section 55601, 6301, 6393, 6395, 6396, 3104, 3122, 613202, 132 to 12203, 312204, 6132 123, 6132 124, 6125, 6131 3004, revised Act Cume Sub 2018, to state intent to create a Veterans Programs Coordinator in the Department of Labor and provide duties for the Department of Veterans Affairs and the Department of Labor relating to veterans employment, to add a member to the Commission of Military and Veterans Affairs, change and eliminate certain armed services related license plate fees to eliminate obsolete provisions, provide for additional military honor plates and support our troop plates, to create a fund to harmonize provisions and repeal the original sections.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 138 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geist, Gregor, Groney, Allern, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Golderman, Lagrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, none. Not voting, Senator Vargas. Vote is 48 ayes, no nays, 1 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 138 passes. Remember, Senator Quick announces some guests today. We've got with us 72 fourth graders from the Dodge Elementary School in Grand Island, Nebraska. With the Dodge fourth graders, please rise. We can welcome you to the Nebraska Legislature. Proceeding now to LB 227, Mr. Clerk.
Course Bill 227, news by U 44, Breezy 41, Coleman 41, Sloman 1. Bill for Nuclear Right to Farm, Thingman 1644, 34404, reissued by statute Nebraska Chamber related to limitation on loosened acts and order applicability to update an act reference to repeal the original section being enacted by section 1, section 4403, some new projects, some new water public in the bill, public apartment is in the farm, public warehouse, the public greenhouse, and the farm operation, public green warehouse, public greenhouse operation before such change in the some the grant of the nuisance. No such should be made formal from the public for 1 2 years after the condition, but the subject matter of the state reaches level of offense or something to claim a nuisance. Limitation provided this shall not apply to any action but to determine whether which was some additional damage or something of the immediate something nuisance acts order. Section 2, 4404 is immediate follow. Nebraska right to farm action on applicable state and federal statutes. Section 3, original section 42, 4403 to 4404, reissued by statute Nebraska are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 227 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted care to? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geist, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hanson, Matt Hanson, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Hughes, Golowski, Colderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linhan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, Senators Howard and Hunt. Not voting, Senator Gregor. Vote is 46 ayes, 2 nays, 1 present, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 227 passes. We'll proceed now to LB 237. Mr. Clerk, the first vote is to dispense with the at-large reading. Those in favor of dispensing the reading, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, please.
34 ayes, 7 nays to dispense with the at-large reading, Mr. President.
The at-large reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Ingress Letter Bill 237, introduced by Crawford, 45 Blood 3, a bill for enacting revenue and taxation to amend Section 77, 2703, 77, 5601, reissue by statute, Nebraska. Change provisions relating to sales and use tax collection fees to authorize the use of certain fees for revenue enforcement, harmonize provisions, provide an operative date, and to repeal the original sections.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 237 pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Halloran, Matt Hanson, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Golowski, Golderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Merman, Benson, Brooks, Quick, Shears, Lamas, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, Senators Clements, Erdman, Lowe, Moser. Not voting, Senator Ben Hanson. Vote is 44 ayes, 4 nays, 1 present, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 237 passes. Proceeding now to LB 237A.
Ingress Level 237A, introduced by Crawford, for bill for not-related appropriations, appropriate ranking at the level 237, and of reserve for 119, medical, second one, by the Department of Revenue Program 1 and 2, carrying out the provision level 237, 106 letters for session 2019. No expenditure determined as hours pertaining for state employees made fund appropriated in this section.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 237A pass? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Have you all voted? Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arts, Blood, Bowles, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Halloran, Matt Hanson, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Golowski, Colderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Merman, Pansy, Brett, Quick, Shears, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, Senators Clements, Erdman, Groney, Lowe, and Mosier. Not voting, Senator Ben Hanson. Vote is 43 ayes, 5 nays, 1 present, not voting.
LB 237A passes. Proceeding now to LB 356. Mr. Clerk, the first vote is to dispense with the at-large reading. Those in favor of dispensing the reading, vote aye. Those opposed, vote nay. Record, please.
Thirty-four ayes, 7 nays to dispense with the at-large reading, Mr. President.
The at-large reading is dispensed with. Mr. Clerk, please read the title.
Ingress Letter Bill 356, introduced by Shear 19, a bill for an act relating to government, amend Section 37, 811, 63 to 127, reissue by statute Nebraska, Section 6301, 6393, 95, 6396, 3100, 603104, 60310401, 603119, 60312203, 3204, 603128, 60313004, 603226, 3227, 3230, 3231, 3232, 3060, 31, 33, 60, 32, 34, 60, 32, 35, Revised Act Sum 2018, provide funding for wildlife conservation funds, change provision relating to fee distribution, fee amounts, semi-trailers under the Motor Vehicle Registration Act, provide powers and duties to the Department of Motor Vehicles regarding discontinuance to certain license plates as prescribed, provide for wildlife conservation plates, prostate cancer awareness plates, semi-super license plates to eliminate obsolete provisions, harmonize provisions, and repeal the original sections.
All provisions of law relative to procedure having been complied with, the question is, shall be 356 passed? Those in favor vote aye. Those opposed vote nay. Record, please.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Harts, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, Breezy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Halloran, Ben Hansen, Matt Hansen, Hilgers, Hilkeman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Golowski, Golderman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McCollister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Vote is 49 ayes, no nays, Mr. President.
LB 356 passes. Next bill is LB 405.
Mr. President, with respect to Legislative Bill 405, Senator Lowe would move to return the bill to select file for a specific amendment, that being strike the enacting clause.
Senator Lowe, you're recognized to open on your motion.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. LB 405 brings into the International Building Code into our building codes. This may be a good time to wash your hands from the stickiness from Senator Slama's birthday donuts, but I don't believe we need the international codes telling us here in Nebraska what we need to do. It brings in the International Energy Code, which will bring in things of green energy. It'll cost us to build our houses. When we look at trying to build affordable housing, we can do that without this. And we need to do that without this. We don't need high cost to build our houses. And if I'd like to build my house one way, I think that should be my prerogative to do it that way without the international codes, Europe and other places telling us what to do. So that's why I dropped this motion, for us to take a little bit of time and to think that do we need those codes telling us what to do? We already have a great set of codes. So let's just take time and think about that. I'm going to vote no on LB 405 as I have in the past because we don't need this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Lowe. Senator Hunt.
Thank you, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Senator Lowe said that this will bring us into the IECC, the International Energy Conservation Code. That's not true at all. It doesn't bring us into this. We've already using the IECC. That's the code that we use. He also said that we already have a great set of codes. That's the IECC. That's what this is. All we're doing with this bill is updating the state energy code standard from the 2009 edition of the IECC to the 2018 edition. Amendments to this bill that we already agreed to. Under this bill, any locality, any municipality, any of your cities or villages or towns who wish to modify the code for any reason would be able to do so under this bill. So there's no mandate, no cities being compelled to do anything here. There's also a delayed operative date of July 1st, 2020, which gives all localities time to look at the code and decide if they'd like to adopt any amendments or modify it for any reason. This bill also complements LB 348, which was Senator Quick's bill to update our building codes, which passed final reading with 41 yay votes. I appreciate Senator Lowe adding to the conversation here, but based on the concerns that he shared in his opening on this floor amendment, I think that I've addressed those. We're already on the IECC. This isn't compelling any city or any builder to do anything. And we do have a great set of codes because we use the IECC, rely on them to give us guidance about safety and security for our housing. So with that, I encourage your red vote on the floor amendment and your green vote on 405, and we can move on. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Hunt. Senator Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just want to reiterate what we did before, and it's actually already been signed into, by Governor into law. We've updated our codes to 2018. What that creates is we have a 2009 energy code. If you can tell the difference, 2018, 2009, there is going to be conflict. So we have to elevate our energy code to match what we've done already passed as this body with the building code, or you're going to have builders now conflicting on which provisions they provide, which will actually cost more money because they'll have to go back to the architects, they'll have to go to the local planning department to get a ruling on which code they should follow. We need to make sure that we update it and be consistent. The energy code has been around since 1980, one version or another by this body. So this is a historic thing that we continue to do to update our energy code to match what we do with our building code to make sure that we are all on the same page. By not having alignment, you're actually going to increase cost. Again, let me repeat this. By not having alignment, you're actually going to increase cost because you're going to have two different sets of codes where they don't commingle together, and you'll have architects and engineers continue to go back to planning department, continue to go back to your local building code department and try to figure out which code, which standard they should use. So this bill is critical as we try to harmonize what we've already passed and the governor has already signed into law, which was Senator Quick's bill. Colleagues, what's being handed out is a map that shows you all the different states that have building codes. As you will see, we have not updated ours since 2009. There is some states around us, Kansas and South Dakota, who still are on 2009, but their building code is also behind ours. Once we decided to update our building code, we have to make sure all the rest of the codes align for construction and for other purposes. The maps that you also see, you'll see that Colorado and I believe Utah are gray because they have a local code. They have not yet adopted the international code, but I will tell you Colorado's code is much more stringent than our code. They've adopted a local code because of the unique mountains that they have that most states don't have to allow for their energy code to be slightly different. Again, this is a floor. Local municipalities can increase if they choose to make it tighter or more stringent, but we are setting a floor on our codes to make sure they all align. What we don't want is some builder out there going back and forth trying to hop between codes and we have conflict. And that's what's going to occur if this bill doesn't move. So we will actually drive up costs for our builders if we don't move this forward to match what we've already passed as a body and the governor's already signed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Senator Erdman.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. Good morning. Senator Lowe, thank you for bringing this opportunity to us to have a discussion on 405. I was wondering if Senator Hunt would yield to a question.
Senator Howard, yield, please.
Yep.
Senator Hunt, good morning. The question I have is, who brought this bill to you to bring to the floor?
This is a bill that was brought by Senator Wayne in the past, and it was part of an urban affairs package bill that was vetoed by the governor. But this is a part of that bill that had great support from the body when it was brought previously.
So was this, and you may not know the answer to this, was this one of those bills that was in the Christmas tree bill last year?
Yes?
Okay.
No?
All right. Thank you.
No, the answer is no.
The answer is no? Okay, thank you. Senator Lowe, would you yield to a question?
Senator Lowe, would you yield, please?
Yes, I will.
Senator Lowe, did this bill come to your committee?
Yes, it did.
And in that committee, when the hearing was held, were there people in the construction business come to testify?
Yes, there were.
And can you share with us what their comments may have been?
That by adopting this code, it would raise cost of building.
And so I would assume from that that they were opposed to any more restrictions to make building costs higher. Would that be a fair assumption?
That would be a fair assumption.
You know, Senator Hunt, in her remarks when she was at the mic the first time, had made several comments that led me to believe that if we don't pass this bill, not a whole lot of things are going to change, and we're doing just fine the way we are. So sometimes here we pass bills and we have solutions looking for a problem, and I think that's what 405 is. So I would agree with Senator Lowe. I'm voting no on 405, and I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Zervin and Lowe. Senator Groney.
Cause and effect. I appreciate Senator Hunt bringing this bill. I was a freshman once too, and the departments bring freshman bills and ask them to introduce them for them, and I did it too. And not doubting that Senator Hunt is fully on board with this code. But cause and effect. Major paper, Eastern Nebraska paper, had an editorial this morning about workforce housing again, and the unaffordability of building it in the state of Nebraska. They claim there's demand, but builders can't build because people can't afford to buy them. It's called regulations, over-regulation, driving up the cost to the point where government gets involved so much the consumer can't afford the end product. That's what we are doing here. I know a few engineers who travel within a 4 or 5 state area, and they do agricultural plants, build them. The cost in Nebraska is 10 to 20% higher because of overregulation. Dumb things. Huge fire depression water systems in a metal building. Other states don't demand that. All sorts of regulations because we just blindly adopt something created in Europe. A code. What we really need to do is have an LR and to look at all of these regulations, housing regulations. Maybe that's how we could get affordable housing back in the state of Nebraska. We just passed a rate on. Common sense, the consumer knows there's a rate on deal, they can add it themselves. Their contractor can tell them they need it. That's free enterprise. So you say it's a choice? Well, if you're an architect and you're asked to design a house, you're just going to play it safe, and you're going to put all of these safeguards in there even though the consumer doesn't even know it's a choice for them to do it or not. You know how it works. So what do? We raise the price of construction to the point the consumer can't afford it, and then we turn around and give away our tax base by tiffing it or giving a tax credit. You get the quandary here? cause and effect. We need to stop over-regulating the state of Nebraska. We are reasonable people. Local people know what they need. International Energy Conservation Code. Do you know there's more climate change between Scottsbluff and Omaha than there is between Omaha and Washington, D.C.? International Energy Conservation Code. I'm assuming there's a big difference between Finland and Nebraska, Brazil and Nebraska. The people in Brazil got to put 6-inch insulation in the walls? Doesn't make any sense. To adopt how you build your home on an international standard. It's the easy way to do it. It's the easy way to adopt codes. We need to start saying no to these over-regulation. Just say no. Let's start over. Let's have a study of the electrical codes and housing codes in the state of Nebraska. Maybe we start eliminating some of these things so we can get some affordable housing again. The safety factors need to be involved, but some of this stuff needs to go away. And it'd be a good start today for the conservative legislature to say no to overregulation. Thank you.
Thanks, Senator Groney. Senator Lowe.
Thank you, Lieutenant Governor. My intent is not to send it back to select. My intent is to take a vote on this, and I'd urge everybody to vote no, because we don't need this at this time. It's a good thing we just passed the passive radon bill, because if this bill passes, we're going to need that, because this building code creates houses that are so tight there is no air movement when we build, which means no air comes in, no air goes out. In the past, our houses have been loose enough to allow that passive radon to go out. These codes are what are now causing us the problems that we're having now, that we're seeing. In the past, we didn't have radon problems in our homes. Our homes breathed. Senator Wayne just passed out a map to us, and I appreciate that, Senator Wayne. As you can see, Nevada is the only state that has adopted this. Is there a reason why most of the maps are green, most of this map is green or yellow? They have not gone to doing this. They have seen a problem with adopting the International Building Code. So once again, I urge you to vote no on LB 405. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Lowe. Senator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Would Senator Wayne answer some questions for me, please?
Senator Wayne, would you yield, please?
Yes.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. My first 2 years I was on Urban Affairs, and I do recall that we spent some time on codes. Now, this is just the energy codes that we're discussing, is that correct?
Correct. It's the International Energy Conservation Code, sorry.
So what other codes? Is there an electrical code and plumbing code, and where is the state of Nebraska on updating those?
The electrical code, there's electrical code, energy code, building code, and I think that's it. So the building code we have updated this year. The plumbing code is current, as that is been updated, and actually we're working on doing a plumbing board, working on some issues there. The energy code, this will update that, and what was the other code I said?
Electrical?
Electrical code, that is current, and we had that discussion last year on the floor during the Costco debate.
So they're all up to 2018?
They're not all up to 2018. Most of them are 2015.
Okay, that was what I was trying to get to, that as I recall, the state of Nebraska was never up to date with the international codes. We were always 2 to 4 to 6 years behind to give our contractors the ability to adapt. So I guess my concern with this bill is we're jumping from 2009 to 2018. I think we have been better served in the past of taking small bites at that. I don't know what the update from 2009 was, if it was 2011 or 12 or 13, but as I recall from my time on Urban Affairs, that we did take, when we did make the updates, but we took smaller bites at the apple, I guess, to make it less onerous, not only on the contractor, but ultimately the homeowner or the building owner that was building that structure. So I guess my point is that we don't have to make this total jump at one time. There are opportunities to take smaller bites at the apple to make sure that we don't create issues for our contractors and ultimately for the individuals or the corporations who are building the buildings and making it too tight, no pun intended there, Senator Lowe, to cause undue construction delays or costs. So I at this point, I think I am opposed to LB 405. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Hughes. Senator Blood.
Thank you, Mr. President. Fellow senators, friends all, I stand strongly opposed to Senator Lowe's strike the enacting clause and his encouragement to not vote green on this bill. And I hope that you are listening and don't already have your minds made up, because I am in full support of this bill. I was so glad that somebody talked about cause and effect. It's very clear when people stand up at this mic sometimes how little understanding they have when it comes to municipalities. And I know that Mayor Mosier, now Senator Mosier, has a very clear understanding, as several others do as well. Many municipalities have already adopted and updated their codes and continue to do so. And the reason that they do that is that if they don't, their insurance rates skyrocket. Then bond ratings go down, and then without affordable bond rates, then development can slow down or can stop. So if you are against development and you want to see it slow down and stop, then you would be against this bill. And if you are against people paying lower prices on energy bills, then you would want to vote against this bill. But if you have common sense...
Excuse me, Senator Blood. Please proceed.
Thank you. I think that's the first time you've ever done that for me. So you have to have an understanding that when people update state energy codes, and if you look at this bill, it's really a very simple bill. They're requiring that counties and communities notify the SEO, right? If they amend or modify any building or construction codes in particular cases, this is just a really simple bill, and it's SOP. It really is. And I think that there's not a clear understanding of what happens at the municipal level. But I can tell you that when you talk to fire departments, when you talk to insurance agents, when you talk to bonding authorities, they're going to tell you that they do support this type of legislation. And builders don't, because it can sometimes increase building costs. And I agree with that. But you know what else I agree with? I agree that people should have the ability to not pay through the nose for their utilities. I think people should have safe homes that they live in, and that's why we have these building codes. And I think municipalities and counties that want to build should have the ability to have decent bond ratings. And so I'm going to support this bill because this is common sense. And if you think otherwise, and you're talking about taxes and cause and effect, we can spin anything in any way, but I'm standing here to speak the truth, and I'm standing here from experience. So there are a lot of cause and effect here. You want to go ahead and vote against this bill on the final reading, by the way, which I think is really poor form, and I always hate when people do this. go ahead and vote against it. But if you represent municipalities, I encourage you to hurry up and get your staff on the phone, because they're going to tell you that exact same thing about the bond rating. And then you can go back to your district and you can explain to your municipalities why you voted against this bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Blood. Before proceeding, Senator Quick announces some guests today. We have with us 40 fourth graders from the Nick Rhyme Elementary School in Grand Island, Nebraska, up in the north balcony. Could the Nick Rhyme fourth graders please rise? We can welcome you to the Nebraska Legislature. Continuing discussion, Senator Slama.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. So on LB 405, we've heard this bill painted as a simple bill, an easy bill, something that's par for the course. And if you look at the text of the bill itself, yeah, it seems pretty innocuous. But when you look into what the 2018 International Building Code does, it's a 4,000-page behemoth. And I'd like to cite an article written in the Kansas City Star about concerns in Olathe about adopting this exact same code. So yes, a municipality had a concern about this code, and we can read a little bit more about it in an article entitled Olathe Council Airs Concerns About Cost of Building Code Update. This was written April 3rd, 2019 by Beth Lipoff. A potential building code update for the Olathe prompted worries from city council members that residents and business owners would be the ones stuck with rising costs as a result. Tuesday night's meeting was the council's first chance to review possible amendments to the approximately 4,000 pages of material that could affect everything from residential lighting to regulations for fireproofing both residential and commercial buildings. The codes cover a wide swath, including building, residential, existing buildings, plumbing, mechanical, fuel, gas, electrical, energy conservation, swimming pools, property maintenance, and fire codes. Possible changes include requiring new residences to illuminate house numbers and requiring sprinklers for many storage facilities. Other amendments dealt with requiring storm shelters or basements in new residencies and sprinklers in buildings with 3 or more units. This is the biggest tax increase we're going to do on the city council, Councilman Larry Campbell said, suggesting that the cost of these code changes will eventually be passed along to residents. Now, I'd like to ask the members of this body if anybody, besides perhaps Senator Wayne, has read through both versions of the 2009 and 2018 International Code Council's IEC.
Senator Slama, excuse me.
No, sir.
Some of the senators are saying they cannot hear you because of the background noise. So we can please hold the conversations down, members. Thank you, Senator Slama. Please proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. I guess I'll have to speak louder. That's the first time I've been told that I've spoken too quietly, so oops. So I'd like to ask members of this body who's read through all the 4,000 pages of changes in 2018 versus 2009 and compared them. Is Senator Mosier on the floor right now? Is he?
Senator Mosier, are you available for question?
He may not be on the floor.
I don't see.
But my point is, yes, localities and municipalities have the chance to opt out of these changes if they would like. But what city council member, what average guy who decides to serve his community by sitting on the city council, and we're not talking about big cities in Omaha and Lincoln where this is a full-time commitment. We're talking about the average guy in Auburn, in Falls City. Is he really going to sit down and compare the 2009 IECC code to the 2018 IECC code, read through all 4,000 pages of both versions, and come to a knowledgeable conclusion about whether that would serve his community better or not? I don't think so. So when we're saying this is a simple bill, yes, in the text of this bill it is simple, but the reality of this bill is anything but, and I'd like to thank Senator Lowe for bringing this floor amendment and having this discussion on the floor. And anytime I have left, I'd like to yield to Senator Lowe.
Thanks, Senator Slama. 1 minute, Senator Lowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll try to hurry. You know, we do need to stop and take a moment here. This is not a simple bill. Cities and counties can already update their building codes without this. Cities and counties can already do this. They don't need our help. If they would like to put stringent codes in that prohibit building, then they can do this. You don't see them doing this until we tell them they have to. We should not be doing this. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. Senator Wayne.
Thank you, Mr. President. First of all, I don't mind debating issues, but let's not make up facts. International Building Code, International Energy Code, those are all United States. Other countries have decided to start adopting them, so the name became international. It was not founded in Hungary or wherever else. Second, Senator Slama, this is not a 4,000-page document. This is actually smaller than our budget. Senator Hughes, this is actually smaller than our budget. My point is, if you were to look at the changes between 2015 and 2018, it's a 3-page document. If I were to print out the changes between 2009 and 2012, which were the significant changes throughout our country regarding energy, this becomes a 24-page document of summary of significant changes. We are behind. Senator Coltman has a bill dealing with PACE. That's energy, allowing companies to use energy financing as a tool. They are not going to base that off a 2009 code. It's not efficient enough. So they're going to build to a higher standard, and their standard won't meet code because we're behind again. It's time to start updating codes. The article that was read from Kansas City, first of all, the Energy Code does nothing with basements and foundations and things like that. That's part of the International Building Code, of which this body already adopted and our conservative governor already signed into law. So to say that our conservative body has to stop Energy Code when the cost of Energy Code is significantly less than the cost of updating a building code, which our conservative governor has already signed, makes no sense to me. This is about being energy efficient. And yes, every state has codes. And we're not an outlier, Senator Groney, where it's going to increase our affordable housing because we adopt some codes. What's going to drive our cost up this year is the fact that we had a flood and most concrete is doubling in prices. So most basements can't be built because the fly ash and the rocks and the limestone that are required are being used by every railroad across the country right now to build back up this area. That's what's going to drive up housing costs. We have to deal with facts. And what happens in this body, and I've seen it so many times before I got here and now that I'm here, is one person picks up one thing and we do a quick Google search and find something to match what we want to say, and we just talk about it without verifying any facts, without double checking anything. And Senator Groney, you voted yes on Senator Quick's bill to update our International Building Code. My point is, we have to update things. We have to move Nebraska to be modern. What's going to happen when the rest of the insurance world, because I have a bill later on, says that your building has to be built to this to be insured? Now we have a conflict again. And now every time there is a conflict in a plan, let me explain this because I build on a regular. If there is a conflict between a plan and a code, or a code and another code, I get 3 engineers in a room to go back to an architect, to go back to the owner, and it is a change order to figure out which code we have to follow.
1 minute.
So if we don't update this, we're only behind 10 years. energy code of 10 years. We're behind. And to Senator Hughes's point, we used to take incremental steps. We are 10 years behind. So we jumped to 2018. What was interesting is the State Home Builders Association were neutral. Omaha was the only one opposed to it. So the area you represent, your home builders are okay, Senator Lowe. Senator Groney, the homeowners in your area are okay with this. But again, we think we know what's better than the industry because we did a quick Google search. Or we think because it says international, it's founded in Hungary. Vote no on the amendment or the motion to return to select file. Please vote green on the underlying bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Wayne. Senator Matt Hansen.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. Senator Wayne stole a little bit of my thunder. I did want to reaffirm that the International Code Council is a U.S.-based organization. It is us exporting our knowledge of building codes and our knowledge of energy codes to other countries. It seems to be headquartered in D.C. and have regional offices across the country, including in Alabama, California, Illinois, and Kansas. This is an American organization that is producing codes based on our expertise and knowing our country. And further, if you were worried about the International Code Council interjecting themselves in our building, and we're going to insert new regulation, I would like to remind everyone, we've already adopted the International Code Council's Energy Conservation Code. We just have an out-of-date version. If you're drawing the line in the sand and we don't want the International Energy Conservation Code, we don't want this outside group telling us how to build our houses, that ship has sailed a long time ago. And I've heard Senator Wayne correct, we've had this energy code in our books since before I was born in some version, and we've just been updating the year. And the other point I wanted to point out is we talked about the map that Nevada is the only state that had adopted the 2018 standard. That's true, and I will point out it is the 2018 standard, and this is 2019. The reason states haven't necessarily updated the 2018 standard is because it was passed in 2018, and most states meet in spring of 2019 like we are. I'm sure there are other states that are considering this, and I'm sure this map will update soon. But if you look, the yellow is the 2009, and yes, there are some others that have stayed with us in 2009, but they are probably experiencing some of the same problems in terms of outdated codes conflicting with building codes, and other issues, and that is why so many of the other states are green, which is either the 2012 or 2015. And I imagine if all those states that are proactive and have adopted the 2015 standard, which was the previous code before the 2018 standard, shows there's plenty of proactive states that go out. And I'll point out, colleagues, that these are across the country, different regions, different areas, different topography, all sorts of different things have adopted this in some variation. So I think we've sitting in Urban Affairs, we had some compelling testimony of tying the energy code to the building code, because the building code assumes you're having an up-to-date energy code. And we're starting to get to the point where we're so far apart that disconnect is causing problems, as Senator Wayne said, and we actually have some conflicts where best practices, the energy code requirements, and the building code requirements don't all three line up. And the simplest, most straightforward way to resolve that is to adopt Senator Hunt's bill and line up our energy codes with the same year that we've lined up with our building codes, which this body, the very 49 of us, did just a couple weeks ago. With that, I would encourage you to vote against Senator Lowe's motion and adopt Senator Hunt's bill, LB 405. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Hansen. Senator Breezy announced as guest today. We have with us 13 seventh graders from St. Michael's School in Albion, Nebraska. With the St. Michael's seventh graders, please rise so we can welcome you to the Nebraska Legislature. Continuing discussion, Senator Chambers.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the legislature. There's a country called England, and England is to be distinguished from all those little countries that they have, like Scotland, Ireland, Northern Ireland. The United Kingdom is not England, but in England, there was a period when machinery was coming into use, There were people who were opposed to this machinery for various reasons, but one had to do with putting people out of work. So they began to go to factories and smash these machines. They were called Luddites, Luddites. They took their name after a fictional character called Ludd, Ludd. There was much violence, much dislocation in society, and many hangings. Well, what we're hearing today is a replay of the Luddites. You have people who don't know what they're talking about. You have people who don't know the current state of affairs. I heard Senator Hughes objecting and saying that Nebraska is so far behind, yet in his bill on the nuisance, which I voted for, they had language talking about new technology to cut down odors and so forth. So in the very farming community from which he comes, technology is recognized as being of value. This whole effort is one of those things by the so-called conservatives, and Senator Groney even said this is a conservative legislature, therefore you ought to take the road of stupidity. So you all make me think of songs. I'm not going to try to argue the issues. Senator Wayne gave you that. You don't want education. Pink Floyd wrote a song for you. We don't need no education. We don't need no thought control, no dark sarcasm in the classroom. Teacher, leave them kids alone. Hey, teacher, leave them kids alone. Why is that? All we are is just another brick in the wall. You all are hard to find a word to describe. This bill is on final reading. There have been discussions of it all the way across the board. Senator Slama popped up and talked about a 4,000-page document which Senator Wayne explained away and told where that term international came from. This word international should not frighten you all just because you've heard the term international communism. You show your density, your intellectual backwardness. The stupidity is what is reigning, and even the gods labor in vain against stupidity. I'm not a god. Therefore, I undertake that vain exercise to try to do away with stupidity, not by correcting your lack of information, but by embarrassing you, calling attention to what you don't know. When young people come to this legislature, they are told, I presume by their teachers, to look for an example. There are kids who are taught more up-to-date material than they hear discussed on this floor, and they can go back and tell the teacher, if I wrote that on the exam, you'd flunk me. Those people are dumb. They don't even know how to read. You know where Google came from as far as my first familiarity with it? Barney Google with the googly eyes. That's what you all are doing when you Google. Barney Google with the googly eyes. You don't have the sense. You don't have the knowledge. You don't have the intelligence to compare that nonsense which is on that gadget with what the facts are because you don't read the facts. You could get an outdated World Book encyclopedia and be more up to date than where you all are. This bill should pass in the same way that it had the votes to get to final reading. Nebraska should be up to date in at least one area, and we should not pass bills just for the convenience of contractors or any particular group who are trying to make money. Not against them, but I'm interested in the citizens. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Chambers. Members, while the legislature is in session and capable of transacting business, I propose to sign and do hereby sign the following legislative bills. LB 6, LB 130, LB 130A, LB 138, LB 227, LB 237, LB 237A, and LB 356. Senator Bosselman.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have not been supportive of this bill, and since we're having a discussion, I wanted to touch on an area which perhaps Senator Wayne or someone can clarify for me when we get, after I've made my comments. I want to go to page 8 of the bill, starting on line 15. One thing that said under this bill, any locality wishing to modify their code for any reason may choose to do so. So in the bill here it says on 81-1618, any county, city, or village may adopt and enforce a local energy code. Such local energy code shall be deemed equivalent to the Nebraska Energy Code if it does not result in energy consumption greater than would result from the strict application of the Nebraska Energy Code and is reasonably consistent with the intent of Section 81-1608 to 81-1626. Any building or portion thereof subject to the jurisdiction of the inspected by such county, city, or village shall be deemed to comply with Sections 81-1608 to 81-1626. If it meets the standards of such local energy code, such county, city, or village may by ordinance or resolution prescribe a schedule of fees sufficient to pay the costs incurred pursuant to these sections, and it goes on in line 28 on, and it'll continue on page 9. Any county, city, or village with such which adopts and enforces a local energy code may waive a specific requirement of the Nebraska Energy Code when meeting such requirement is not economically justified. The local code authority shall submit to the State Energy Office its analysis for determining that a specific requirement is justified. The State Energy Office shall review such analysis and transmit its findings and conclusions to the local code authority within a reasonable time. The local code authority shall submit to the State Energy Office its explanation as to how the original code or any revised code addresses the issues raised by the State Energy Office. After local code authority has submitted such explanation, the authority may proceed to enforce its local energy code. I guess my stickler point with this one was, and my question with this is, it reads to me that you may do something different as long as it meets or exceeds the Nebraska Energy Code, which is adopted by this bill, being the International Energy Conservation Code. So you have to meet or exceed it. That's how I read this, and that's my understanding, and that's my question. The question is, can a city or county actually have a different ordinance for building codes that are less than what we're requiring in the bill now? As I read it, you cannot. You have to meet or exceed. And I'll leave that question for someone to answer if they'd like. I believe if you have a lesser code, you have to build to at least that code, but you can exceed the code. As is presently done now, there is a baseline for that code, but if you want to exceed, you can, but you cannot build to a lower standard. So when it says in here that if the locality would like to modify their code for any reason, I do believe there is a requirement there that is set out in the bill, and I'm not so sure that they can meet that requirement for just any reason. There is a specific calling or requirement within the bill. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Bossman. Senator McAllister.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. I just had a conversation with Speaker Scher. I wonder if he'd yield for the content of our discussion.
Speaker Scher, would you yield, please?
Yes, I will. Thank you, Senator McAllister. Colleagues, we're going down in the weeds here. Based on what I have heard, there's nothing wrong with this bill. This bill simply adopts a code. It allows local communities to either adopt them or not. This isn't a communist plot that's trying to take over the United States. I think we need to be more cognizant of how we're handling bills on the floor. You can oppose the bill if you'd like, but oppose it because of what it does or it says, not what you think it might do or what somebody else has told you it's going to do. This bill is not a bad bill. It brings us up to certain codes from a state perspective. And think about this. We're talking about trying to attract jobs. There are a lot of green companies in this world that want to come and build new plants and facilities. Okay, we're the only one in the Midwest that may have passed it. When they're looking at a spot to land, do you think they're going to one that's black? Don't think so. They're probably looking for the new ones. If we're really interested in attracting jobs and industry, you have to keep up with the times. Think about it. Thank you, Mr. McAllister. Senator McAllister.
Thank you. I have a few things I'd like to get on the record as well. Last week, I met with the contractor group over at Billy's, had lunch with those folks, and we talked about construction costs in the Midwest. And they maintained they're pretty uniform throughout the entire Midwest. Nebraska, no, is not higher at all. Yes, we do update our codes every 8 or 10 years. And that's something we need to do, absolutely need to do. And the way they do that, when they do anticipate changing those codes, groups get together. They have subspecialties, electrical, plumbing, carpentry. Those groups get together with the code enforcers, probably some of the larger cities, and they go through those codes that will be new codes that will be put into effect. And they talk about how they will apply those codes. So it's not done willy-nilly, not at all. And they go through and figure out which codes to apply and which ones really need to be updated. Lastly, those codes need to be updated. Why? Because it protects the contractors. Now, if a homeowner builds a house and somebody uses obsolete codes, that homeowner can sue the contractor. They can sue the contractor for not being up to date on their construction methods. So it's a protection for the contractors. We need to think of that as well. This is a good bill, and we need to pass it. Let's vote for LB 405 right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator McAllister. Senator Ben Hansen, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm not going to speak a whole lot on the bill really at all. I'm still I appreciate the debate that we're having. I'm listening to what everybody's saying, kind of making an informed decision on how I'm going to vote. Fellow colleagues, ladies and gentlemen who are listening right now, my time has finally come. I have finally been in an Ernie-gram. I've been waiting for this time, and I appreciate Senator Chambers for keeping it short and sweet, so I will do the same. And so most of you might know what a haiku is. A haiku is 3 lines, 5 syllables, 7 syllables, and 5 syllables, so I'm going to keep mine short in the form of a haiku. I think Senator Chambers might appreciate this. Clerk of time he be, always camera ready, but you don't own me. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Hansen. Senator Erdman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. How do I follow that one? So, listening to the conversation this morning and trying to figure out exactly what it is this bill does, I'm not convinced yet that this does what we think it's supposed to do, but Senator Lowe had made a comment earlier in his comments about building houses too tight. I'm here to tell you it can happen. In 2012, built a significant addition onto our house. I was the, quote, contractor, and we built the house in the way I thought we should build it, and 2x6 walls and significant insulation, spray insulation, and spray foam insulation, and the house is too tight. I need an air exchanger to ventilate the house so that the air will move through there. Never thought that was possible. So some of these things that we put in place to conserve energy sometimes aren't in the best interest of those people who live there. and I can testify to that. So I don't believe I've changed my mind on 405. I think it's the same opinion as I had before, but I appreciate the opportunity to have a discussion about it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Erdman. Senator Moser, you recognize.
Good morning, colleagues. Thank you, Mr. President. I was calling our building inspector in Columbus before when Senator Slama was looking for me. I was trying to do a little research to see where we're at. And I think there are some inconsistencies in what's been said from the floor, and I'm not so sure that I'm 100% consistent in what I believe to be the case and what is the case. I think that the building energy code, from what I've learned from talking to one of the other senator's aides, that it applies to the whole state, except where there's local codes, the local code enforcer can decide whether they're going to enforce it or not necessarily whether they're going to adopt it. It's still, the energy code is going to be, it's going to be the rule of law in the whole state. The local entity can decide if they want to enforce it or not, but the state could still enforce it themselves. And I asked our building inspector, community development director to be more technically correct, and he said that one of the number one complaints from contractors was the pressure testing part of the energy code, where they force air into the house and then they see what level of pressure they can build up to. That tells them how much air is leaking out of various cracks and electrical outlets and all those places where air could escape from the home. And I think that I voted against this before because I don't think we need to be on the leading edge for energy conservation. The homeowners can use those higher standards if they want to. Any contractor can use those standards if they want to. And then when they sell their home, they can use that as a selling point, that this home is more green, it uses less energy, it's tighter, more tightly constructed, if that's the case. And then I also asked our community development director about the inseparability of the building code and the energy code, and he said he didn't immediately find a problem with having a difference in the year of when the codes were enacted between the current one and the 2009. He said if the energy code is different, he didn't think that that was necessarily going to be a really big deal. I think there's enough lack of unity in we have inconsistent facts being represented here, let's put it that way. I'm still a no on approving the energy code. And if there's some way we could move it back and talk about it some more and maybe bring it back later, I might be in favor of that. If there's no way to do that, then I would support the move to kill the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Moser. Senator Lowe, you're recognized. This is your last time at the mic other than your close.
Thank you, Mr. President. Once again, I'd like to have you take a look at the map that Senator Wayne sent out. There is no one in our area that has adopted this energy code. No one. We are mostly a rural state. I don't think we want to be adopting energy codes that don't apply to us, that will hinder us. There is nothing that we can't do to build above the energy code. We can always build above the energy code, the building code. You can build any kind of house you want, but let's give us the option to build affordable housing so that we can bring people to our state. It's going to cost more money to build a house using these standards. With that, I'd like to yield my time to Senator Slama.
Senator Slama, 335.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I will keep this brief and turn off my light to speak. I thought it was important to point out that, yes, Senator Wayne, that Kansas City Star article, the 4,000-page document that they were citing, included the IECC. It was included as part of a package, and my apologies for referencing that, and I wanted to say that on the mic because I think some of our colleagues on the floor have a tendency to spread misinformation without having the courage to admit that they were wrong. So yes, on that, I was wrong. I'd just like to quickly reference the handout I've passed around. The Nebraska Energy Office did do an analysis on the cost change for a regular ranch-style house with this 2009 to 2018 change. And they estimated, if you reference page 9 of this handout, that construction costs would go up about $3,000. That's not fake information. This is straight from the Nebraska Energy Office. Do with this information what you will. I just thought it was useful for this debate. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Slama. Senator Groney, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Appreciate Senator Scheer's stand on this bill. I understand as his other alter ego as the Speaker, he wants to manage time, but I'm here to do good government. And as I've told a lot of when somebody asks me, are you disappointed a bill didn't get passed? Are you disappointed a bill was held up? And I said, no. Government should be deliberative. State's been here 151 years. It can last another year without a bill passing. You heard Senator Slama, $3,000. And we all have personal experiences, all right? My wife and I put a new building up, and they stuck those GFCI outlets in it. It cost another $1,500 or more for my building. We about lost a freezer of meat because the dang thing kicked out. Anywhere in it, I run an electric drill, and they all kick out. Guess what? Now I got $10 outlets I'm slowly but surely taking out and throwing in the trash and replacing them with the ones without the breaker in them. Lived my whole life, and I don't know if anybody's house burned down because their outlet went bad. That's just an example of overregulation and adding cost. We are the state of Nebraska. Senator Mosier, would you take a question?
Senator Mosier, would you please yield?
Yes, I will.
The gist of what I got from what you said is, so a bigger community like maybe a Columbus or a North Platte might have a building codes department and a building inspector?
Columbus has a building department, and they have
thank you.
Several inspectors, yes.
So a little county like Logan County, Arthur County, all of those counties don't have one of those building code inspectors or a building code. So by de facto, what you said, Senator Mosier, is it true? Those poor individuals, those contractors would have no choice but to follow the restrictive state codes. Is that correct?
Well, first of all, I have to say that I'm not the leading expert on this. What I was told by one other senator and his aide is that the building codes are able to be adapted by local cities or counties if they have zoning.
Different than the state.
Yeah, but the energy code is all-encompassing and covers the whole state. So
yes.
If you don't have zoning or inspection in your county, technically you have to follow the state code. Right. Now,
thank you,
would enforce that? I don't know.
All right, appreciate that. So cause and effect. Guess what? Rural Nebraska can't afford housing, can't afford to build it. Why? Overburdensome regulation. dictated by the state. We have to follow all of the codes of the international codes because we don't have local codes. Out in the sticks where I have my building, I had to put all of this junk in it. Foolish. Because we just accept the international code. And I'm sure there's some folks are glad they're there because they contractors and manufacturers because they can sell you something.
1 minute.
That you don't need. I understand that it's not green people the only ones who lobby for these regulations. It's also the people who make and manufacture and sell this junk that they force you to put into your new home. It's give and take. It's time for us to start looking at these regulations and over-regulating the citizens of Nebraska with unnecessary stuff that was not created here, was not vetted here, and we just blindly accept it. That's serious conversation. This isn't some wacko standing up here thinking a communist plot. This is asking a serious question about regulation that we are going to put on the citizens of Nebraska. Vote no. I'm going to vote no on this thing. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Groney and Senator Mosier. Seeing no one left in the queue, Senator Lowe, you're welcome to close. Senator Lowe, you're welcome to close.
Thank you, Mr. President. I appreciate the discussion this morning on this bill. I've shared my concerns. Others have shared their concerns on the passage of this bill. So I'd like to have an up or down vote on this bill, and then we can send it to the governor. So I'm going to pull my motion so that we can have a vote, a yes or no. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. Mr. Clerk. Colleagues, would you please return to your chairs for final reading?
Request level 405, introduced by Honda, of offered actually building man 716046, 604, 604, 805, 72806, 1608, 1609, 1611, 1614, 1618, 81, 31, 32, right statutes in Nebraska. Change per letter building energy code, adopt that building, an operating date, repeal the original section. Being acted by the people of the state of Nebraska, 171-34-3, state building code is the reference. Internal building code, chapter 33, 2018, 720 is a part of the internal road code, this was a fast, this all refused to restore facility of every person. International resident code, this was total, some this is Arthur 32 by the international building code, some national building code, 28, part of the internal code council. Go to over some this shall be look from the other state law, section 271, this is mid-read. County city building, and administered. Local buildings alongside secretaries of the state building code of the state building code 7 within the state building code of then they get a special local in the city county village and operating some things the building code. Top section 305 is some 905 132 172. That law is authorized 1618. There's some the building code is some delete any portions of there's some because of the days that the office matter of modification. So it's not the local building by the section of pension force. Regular updated code for purposes of regular updated benches of the state building is operated the county city within 2 years of the state building code. Some still miss on local building construction code. State county was one or more standard codes up there, some new results, some new part of the office of the code. Long as such code is in effect, some new subdivision independent in being. And in the state building, is even required to one ET, some new building room. Components of the state building, some the coordinator codes of the code, some may specify more recent addition to the revenue, some new the state building administrator. Section 472-805, some the state of jail, some carrying out this section. Section 572-806, section by 72-804. So just some days is not up in the next some new same some new the cost of some new the base of the turn around the check some new listing the some the kind of data jail some new Organic Regulation Act. Buildings named do some of the 3 or 4 that there's a part in the resumes that there was some the cost of 1 or more dwelling units. renovation, being alteration, existing code would cost more than 50% of the realistic cost. With that, I was something that listen to restraints that will not be included in building or structure or something. So when heating or something that will go to something that is some reason towards humanity and Nebraska Energy Code. Section 8 something that was something that found something that was something that we got something that the use of such one something that was the energy conservative. Results circuit applications energy code something that 1640 means something that something that which construction is initiated on after the operating date of this act. Section 10 is something that because of the result in the district application by the energy code is reasonable consistent. The intent is something 1608, 1616 something that goes in the pay the cause of 1626. In the city county, something local, something adopt the state and jump that not something not justified. So this is there's something that have no local, and this is applicable to the local energy code. Section 11, 81, 1622 revised statute Nebraska is by the construction renovation and addition the following something that city can adopt it. Oh, 1618, something non according to Nebraska Energy Code. Something that the energy code something that cause according to the construction by the engineer. Section 12 is actually become operative July 1, 2020. Section 13, original 64, 3, 64, 6, 72, 804, 805, 702, 806, 71, 1608, 1609, 1611, 81, 1614, 81, 1618, 81, 1622. Reissued by statute Nebraska or repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 405 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
Voting aye, Senators Blood, Brand, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Geis, Gregor, Ned Hansen, Helkeman, Howard, Hunt, Kolowski, Colderman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shears, Dinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. Voting nay, Senators Albright, Bostelman, Clements, Erdman, Friesengroen, Halloran, Lowe, Moser, Merman, and Slama. Not voting Senators Arch, Brewer, Breezy, Ben Hansen, Hilgers, Hughes, Legrand, and Bowles. Vote is 30 yeas, 11 nays, 7 present, not voting, 1 excused, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 405 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 496.
In course, Bill 496 and 113, the bill for narcotic crimes and offenses by Senate 29, 1, 19, 19, 12, 914, 916, 917, 29, 19, 18, 19, 19, 21, on this, and this even related to the jury tapping into physical legislation, discovering criminal cases, redefined journal, not spirit, people were sucking the knock by say, was work 7, 916, 1, reached by statute, it's made as something that look at something that isn't there, other than presumed there to us, something that the court is by what it's in particular, because some individually, something that goes down to something like something that Canada, something that was something that within it. Or should be lost, something that was something that Mississippi University commercial interest in the primary saving ways of current pursuing occasions of the governmental function, which does not include witnesses, official proceedings, there's something anyway, every something proceeding with us, something proceedings, something in addition to something the representation. Section 228, 918, there's something is business, something causing form documents, something that testifies positive evidence. Because some disease, something because I'm the part of the trial of the case. Something is a violation. Higher class 1 misdemeanor, so because 2 felon, higher felon class, we got some class 2 felons, this without legal rights or authority. Usually destroys, mutilates, conceals, removes, or alters physical as in the repairs of this and the painting. That's right, some physical substance. Temporary now is classified as class 2 misdemeanor. Local classification violation, these in the class 1 misdemeanors, and the offense is a class 2 felony. Section 429 this was up and cases to be tried violating the statement or statement prior to some jury. Name and address of witnesses of the China basis, some of the consequences of the would be assumed by the prosecution, the deadline change. In the case of some of the jailhouse witnesses, some of the prosecuting term that made the future jailhouse witnesses, some A transcript of the copy of recantation. Finding and writing upon the possibility. But later on, witnesses, his presence, records, or may submit little changes to control of the state and local subdivision of government services, possession, custody, restore, submit, to get prosecuted case. Whenever defendants granted an order 29/1912, where a person in the section 87 the deposition finds a testimony of the witness be relevant to the court because proceedings taken civil case testimony with section 829/19 the support given time of the additional materials. Continuance provided by the God and that is closing I would have this materials continues to probe the test on the circumstances. Section 11. Section 192 read. Purposes of 1923 by the following statements made in the defendant which relate to the investigation, the underlying charges of this, according to the oral statement, the oral statement. Section 12, original section 28.9/1601, 28.9/19, 1914, 1916, 29/1917, 29/1918, 29/19, 23, 1924, reissued by statute in Nebraska are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 496 pass? All those in favor vote aye. All those opposed vote nay. All voted that wish to? Please record.
49, Senators Albright, Archblood, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, Breesey, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Greger, Groney, Holler, Hanson, Hilgers, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kalowski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. 49, none, not voting, Senator Bowles. 48 ayes, no nays, 1 excused and not voting, Mr. President.
LB 496 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 524.
Yours Bill 520 by Senator Dorn, Bill for Nuclear and Nebraska Budget Act and measures agreement of subchange provision of harmless section 1. On or before August 20 of each year, the county assessors supervise each governing body to recalibrate tax applicable to such county assessors website. Current tax value property shown in every report of the access served by the county assessor allows the county assessor to course of registry to county clerk receives such records. County clerk of any county which reporter or journal or judge shall on before the date prescribed subsection of certified tax valuation on tax for such part of the joint district collusion committee clerk of the headquarters county. The county clerk of any county as part of certified as headquarters county which goes to administer all high school district or learning communities located. Section 3, original section 79, 1074 reissue revised statutes of Nebraska and 13509 revised stat cumulative supplement 2018 are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 524 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
49, Senators Albright, Archblood, Bostelman, Brandt, Brewer, Breesey, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Greger, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hilgers, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kalowski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowell, McAllister, McDonald, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. 40 nay, none not voting, Senators Morfeld and Bowes. 47 ayes, no nays, 1 present not voting, 1 excused not voting, Mr. President.
LB 524 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 585.
Bill 585 by Senator Friesen, Bill for Nuclear Rule of Rules, define terms, cases, sector grants.
Department needs Department of Energy and Environment, ES, blend ethanol, gasoline, heavy Department needs commercial weighing, nitrogen device. Program needs renewable fuel infrastructure. That renewable fuel infrastructure program is created that converting ethanol for to be used for stored blenders disposal of renewable fuel. So the eligible plants. An ethanol infrastructure shall be eligible for grant use of the program, such as includes a tank vehicle. Any person eligible to apply for a grant under the program should include the following information or application: name, address, the person, address, retail fuel to be approved, detailed description of the infrastructure to be installed. Department shall determine the amount of grants to be used in the program, partial grants, central of the program, and award the grants to the program shall not exceed 50% of the estimated cost of the improvement of $30,000, whichever is less than 3-year period cost share agreement, 30 was less 4-year cost share agreement. Retail motor vehicle approved during grants program show tanks uses primitive fuel. Retail motor vehicle fuel sizes approved grants cost share agreement unless granted waiver by the department. Renewable fuels infrastructure fund is created. The fund shall consist of appropriate legislative transfers authorized in legislative grants. The fund shall be administered by the department used to grant such of the program. Section 8, this act becomes operative on January 1 of 2020.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 585 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
Voting aye. Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bostoman, Brandt, Brewer, Creasy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildress, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, Wishart. 49 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the final passage of LB 585.
LB 585 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 616.
616 is a bill by Senator Hildress, bill organizing state highways and bridges, amended section 1870, and order revised cities to right and certain acceptance for section 5 and 6 is out contract construction, reconstruction, improvement, maintenance, program department, the lowest bidders of such contract with qualified bid in the department except in subsection 2 of 391351. Subsection 2 shall not apply to contracts which provide payment pursuant to net schedule or period of time contributions of contract. When the department is required by acts of Congress, rules and regulations, the director and shall cause minimum rates for such with performing highway work contract with the department, unless the director, state energy further finds that scale work was already necessary. The department in its sole discretion may permit the city, county, let federal contract reconstruction improvement below jurisdiction of body such cities locate determines that it is the public interest in that contract be led by city or county bidders of such contract. Department in sole discretion may permit federal agencies to let contracts exception and importance of any permit environment returns of public interest. The purpose of Nebraska is on the competitive consultation of environment management and competitive bidding with two-state actions sections does not apply to contracts 57-1503 and 39-53 contracts in the state 38-20-28-23 was provided in section 2810. Contracts in the state park is provided 37-1719. Section 3, original section 39-1349, reissue revised statutes Nebraska, and section 81-1701 revised stat cum sub 2018 are repealed.
All provisions of law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 616 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have you all voted that wish to? Please record.
Voting aye, Senators Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Bostoman, Brandt, Brewer, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clements, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geis, Gregor, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hildress, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolaski, Coulterman, Legrone, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Moorfeld, Moser, Merman, Quick, Shear, Slama, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, and Wishart. Voting nay, none not voting, Senators Pansy, Brooks, and Williams. Senator Pansy, Brooks voting yes. 48 ayes, no nays, one present not voting, excuse me.
LB 616 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 693.
Bill 693 by Senators Holler and Albright, Boston, Brandt, Breesy, Clements, Gregor, Hanson, Hickelman, Kolaski, Coulterman, Linehan, Lowe, McDonald, Merman, Stinner, Williams, Erdman, Slama, Blood. This bill for regulating telecommunications prohibits selling, renting, conveying telephone numbers for private top neighbors, moving protection, exercise of a penalty. No person shall use telecommunications known transfer cause any value. This section does not apply to any authorized acting law enforcement or any provider of telecommunications, local exchange carriers, telecommunication carriers, notwithstanding section 75 of the Public Service Committee after proposed hearing shall not exceed $2,000. Amount of administrative shall be based on the nature of services and gravity, history of previous violations, not necessarily future violations. The Commission shall result in administrative collected under this Act. Any administrative penalty may be appealed. The appeal shall be recorded as 785-136. Notwithstanding substantive section violation, the section will be considered violation of Section 591602 and any other law which provides the implementation for the Act. A violation of this section does not give rise to a private cause of action.
All provisions of the law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 693 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Please record.
Voting aye. Senator Albright, Arch, Blood, Bowles, Boston, Brandt, Brewer, Breesy, Kavanaugh, Chambers, Clemens, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Erdman, Friesen, Geist, Gregor, Groney, Holler, and Hanson, Hilders, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Coltman, Legrone, Lathrop, Linston, Linehan, Lowe, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Slamet, Stenner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, Williams, and Wishart. 49 ayes, no nays on the final passage of LB 693.
LB 693 passes. We'll now proceed to LB 177.
Senator Breesy, I understand you wish to withdraw AM 1428.
Yes, that's correct.
Congressional Bill 177 is by Senators Liston, Blood, Crawford, Kolowski, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Bill Vernacular and Natural Resource Section Amendment Section 32, 32, 14, is a determination, Section 1. The authority to issue bonds for qualifying projects granted Section 230 is outstanding projects set date and permitted grain shall not be retained powers taxation for savings payment. Refunding funds may continue issue and outstanding is December 31, 2024, including exclusion principal and authorities that determined appropriate. Section 2, original Section 2, 3226.14, reissue revised statute, Nebraska is repealed.
All provisions of the law relative to procedure have been complied with. The question is, shall LB 177 pass? All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
Voting aye, Senators Arch, Blood, Bowles, Brandt, Kavanaugh, Crawford, DeBoer, Dorn, Friesen, Geist, Gregor, Matt Hanson, Hickman, Howard, Hughes, Hunt, Kolowski, Coltman, Lathrop, Lindstrom, Linehan, McAllister, McDonald, Morfeld, Moser, Merman, Pansy, Brooks, Quick, Shear, Stinner, Vargas, Walls, Wayne, and Williams, and Wishart. Voting no, Senators Albright, Boston, Clements, Erdman, Groney, Holler, Ben Hanson, and Lowe. Not voting, Senators Brewer, Breesy, Chambers, Hilders, Legrone, and Slama. 35 ayes. 8 nays, 6 present, not voting, Mr. President.
LB 177 passes. While the legislature in session and capable of transacting business, I propose to sign and hereby sign LB 405, LB 496, LB 524, LB 585, LB 616, LB 693, and LB 177. Next item, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, select file, Senator Slama, LB 411. I have enrollment and review amendments, first of all.
Senator Slama, for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the NR amendments to LB 411 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those opposed, say nay. The NR amendments are approved.
Senator Brewer moved to amend with AM 1379.
Senator Brewer, you're welcome to open on LB 1379.
Thank you, Mr. President. To remind everyone, Speaker Scheer's LB 411 was prioritized by the Government Committee on our elections package. We added a number of bills to the committee amendment that was adopted on general file. This amendment, AM 1379, adds 4 more bills. These bills all came out of committee with overwhelming support. The first one is LB 574. This bill removes a specific day of the month in statute for the required MUD meetings. It just gives them the flexibility to adjust that day as needed. The second bill is LB 733, and that is Senator Kowalski's. This bill would give disabled voters access to polling places. The third bill is LB 522, that's Senator Linehan's. This bill will promote better cooperation on HR issues in large counties. The fourth bill is LB 98. That is Senator Wayne's bill, and this would ease the signature requirements for ballot access. I believe all of these changes are modest and non-controversial changes. We've packaged them together for the sake of efficiency. It is my understanding that Senator Linehan has an amendment that makes one more technical tweak, and I will let her explain her amendment to LB 522. With that, please ask for your green vote on AM 1379 and on LB 411. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Brewer. Senator Kavanaugh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise not to speak to this bill or its merits, but I rise to share my thoughts about what has happened in the last 48 hours in this body. The rules of the Nebraska unicameral legislature, this red book that we all have on our desk, a tool, a weapon, a living, breathing document. Yesterday, we saw what happens when this body does not pay deference to this important tome. Today, we saw how the rules can be used as a weapon, and those who are using it as a weapon are under some illusion that they are waging a battle against this legislature, and they will, a gavel, please, Speaker. Thank you. Those who are using it as a weapon are under some illusion that they are waging a battle against this legislature and will arise victorious and unscathed. Be sure that is a delusion. When you strike blows to your colleagues out of spite in juvenile games, you are going to die from 1,000 cuts, and you won't even see them coming, but they are coming. History, civility, rules, and order are paramount to the functioning of this body. Any one person in this body who does not respect these tenets does not deserve to represent the people of Nebraska. Our state, our citizens deserve to have those making laws to treat them responsibly with the utmost reverence and seriousness. I hope next week we can all do better. The budget of this state, the state's future is in our hands. Games are disrespectful. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator. Senator Slama, you're recognized.
I'd just like to briefly respond to what was just said on the mic. I think that it runs a bit into the superlative when we hop on the mic and we say that those who participated in extended debate on a bill, which was not a filibuster, folks. We did not have to invoke cloture. It was debate on a bill that impacts Nebraskans. Saying that we're going to die by 1,000 cuts and we won't even see them coming and then say respect in the same breath is a little bit humorous to me. And I would just recommend that those who get on the mic consider what they're saying, especially when it's to deal with threats on the mic, on having extended debates on bills. I find that to be rather concerning, and I'm still trying to process what was just said on the mic, because we're functioning within the rules, and threatening other colleagues in this body that they will die by 1,000 cuts and they won't even see them coming is a very interesting assertion to me. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Slama. Senator Mosier would like to welcome 4 guests seated in the north balcony: Marilyn Zerling, Peg Jeffries, Sue Murphy, and Ann Kellison, all from Columbus, Nebraska. Would you please stand and be recognized by the Nebraska Legislature? Thanks for coming and visiting. Returning to discussion, Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the legislature, I have a question to put to Senator Brewer, if he would yield.
Senator Brewer, would you please yield?
Yes, sir.
Senator Brewer, is there a particular reason why LB 44 was not included on this list?
Give me a quick refresher on 44.
Well, that was a bill to abolish the death penalty.
Oh, I don't believe I had a formal request to include that with the elections package.
I stand corrected. I'll be more circumspect next time they're building a Christmas tree. Thank you, Senator Brewer.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Brewer, seeing no one in the queue to speak. Senator Brewer, you're welcome to close on AM 1379. He waives closing. The question before us is an adoption of AM 1379. All those in favor, please vote aye. For all those opposed, nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
42 ayes, no nays on adoption of Senator Brewer's amendment.
AM 1379 is adopted. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Linehan would move to amend with AM 1577.
Senator Linehan, you're welcome to open on AM 1577.
Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning, colleagues. I would like to thank Senator Brewer for including a portion of LB 522 into LB 411 Viva Amendment 1379. LB 522 is a bill to introduce to standardize human resource departments and personnel boards across Nebraska counties. Douglas County is the only county to not have a human resource director report to its Board of Commissioners. AM 1379 includes a provision requiring the human resources director report to the Douglas County Board. Currently, the HR director is the only director not reporting to the board. This change is consistent with the statutes governing Sarpy and Lancaster counties. 23-2507. This change was an oversight in the committee amendment that repealed the section of law outlining the powers and duties of the Civil Service Commission. It is not my intent to repeal that section of the law. The Civil Service Commission will retain its powers and duties. 23-2509. This change is to make it abundantly clear this legislative bill does not impact any county employees' employment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Linehan. Floor discussion. Senator Lathrop, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President and colleagues. Good morning. I support LB 411 and the Linehan Amendment 1577. This amendment will allow Douglas County Service Commission's role in setting policy and procedures to continue as it has been for almost 50 years. That intended result got lost in an earlier amendment to the original bill. This amendment corrects that. It also assures current HR employees that they will continue in their jobs and they will have all the employment protections of any other similarly employed person. It shows that this change in management structure is not an opportunity for anyone to install new employees, but simply because there's a new boss. Those would be my remarks this morning. I would encourage your support of the amendment and the bill. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Lathrop. Seeing no one wishing to speak, Senator Linehan, you're welcome to close. She waives closing. The question before us, adoption of AM 1577 to LB 411. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
37 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Linehan's amendment.
AM 1577 is adopted.
Senator Salama, I have no further amendments on LB 411.
Senator Salama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 411 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 411 is advanced to ENR for engrossing. Mr. Clerk.
570, Senator. I have ENR amendments, first of all.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 570 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
Senator Walls would move to amend with AM 1480.
Senator Walls, you're welcome to open on AM 1480.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. President. AM 1480 is the culmination of suggestions from the Department of Health and Human Services, discussions on the floor, and a few additions based on the construction of other states' Olmstead plans. Before I continue on what this amendment changes, I want to give the body a quick reminder on what the Olmstead plan is. It came from a 1999 Supreme Court decision that stated, under the American with Disabilities Act, unjustified segregation and institutionalization of people with disabilities is unconstitutional, and that states are required to create an Olmstead plan designed to provide services in the most community-based setting possible when A, such services are appropriate, B, the affected persons do not oppose community-based services, and C, the community-based services can be reasonably accommodated. Nebraska needs this plan not only because we are at risk of being sued, but because if we don't, we are leaving vulnerable individuals behind who could be participating in our communities and living their lives to the greatest extent possible. And I really look at this as an opportunity for Nebraska to create a comprehensive plan that will ensure, number one, the safety and the quality of life for people who have disabilities. The first change I would like to highlight is on page 4. This language is similar to the green copy of the bill that required the Department of Health and Human Services to create the Olmstead Plan in collaboration with other agencies. The ones that we have removed at the request of the department are the Governor's Policy Research Office and the Office of the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman. However, upon review of other states' Olmstead plans, I felt it was important to ensure all agencies providing services to those with disabilities play a part in the creation of this plan to ensure the most comprehensive and well thought out plan is implemented. That's why for the Department of Veterans Affairs, the Equal Opportunity Commission, and the university system should be added to the list of agencies required to collaborate with DHHS. If you take a look at the page from Minnesota's Olmstead Plan that I've handed out, you will notice Minnesota's Department of Veteran Affairs and the Department of Human Rights. Minnesota does not have the university system working in collaboration, but I felt that UNMC's work with Monroe Meyer Institute and UNL's work at the Barclay Center, along with the research the university does, would be extremely beneficial in an effort to coordinate services. The second change strikes lines 8 through 19 on page 4, dealing with the directors of different agencies required to convene a team, and replaces them with the CEO of the Department of Health and Human Services. On this note, I just wanted to mention that I have met with the new CEO, Danette Smith, and after meeting with her and talking with her about her experience on this issue, I believe she understands the consequences our state would face if we do not pass this bill. And the last change in the bill is to move the completion date for the Olmstead Plan to December 15th instead of November 1st in order to give the department more time to create the plan. Once again, I would like to remind you that we are already out of compliance with the state law. Under the state statute, the department was already required to complete this plan by December 15th of last year. If we continue in the direction we are going without passing this bill, anyone who decided to bring a lawsuit against the state would have a solid argument that we are not completing our obligations to individuals with disabilities. With that, I would ask you for your green vote on AM 1480. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thanks, Senator Walls. Senator Bosselman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If you remember on General File, Senator Walls and I had a discussion a little bit about the directors of the different agencies being here, and AM 1480, as she's just addressed it, has actually taken care of those issues, addressed those areas, and I thank her very much for that. I am full support of AM 1480 and LB 570, and I ask for your green vote on both. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Bosselman. Seeing no one wishing to speak, Senator Walls, you're welcome to close on your amendment. She waives closing. The question before us is adoption of AM 1480 to LB 570. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
38 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Wall's amendment.
AM 1480 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Senator Slama.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 570 be advancing now for engrossing.
Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. President, members of the legislature, I just want the chairperson of the E&R committee to see how many votes in favor of her motions I'm giving. And I want her to remember that in the future, because if you dance to the devil's fiddle, you're going to have to pay the devil when time comes. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Colleagues, refreshing your memory, the motion has been made to advance LB 570 to DNR engrossing. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 570 is advanced, DNR engrossing. Mr. Clerk.
Senator Slama, LB 570A, I do have ENR amendments, first of all.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 570A be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
Senator Howard would move to amend with AM 1249.
Senator Howard, you're welcome to open on AM 1249.
I believe this amendment merely clarifies the cash transfer from the Healthcare Cash Fund from Legislative Council. Thank you, Mr. President. I would urge its adoption on the floor. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Howard. Seeing no one wishing to speak, Senator Howard's welcome to close. She waives closing on AM 1249. Question before us is adoption of AM 1249. All those in favor, please vote aye. All opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
33 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Howard's amendment.
AM 1249 is adopted. Mr.
Senator
Clerk.
Slama, I have no further amendments to the bill.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 570A be advanced to DNR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, nay. LB 570A is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
375, Senator, I have no amendments to the bill.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 375 be advanced to DNR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 375 is advanced.
155, Senator, does have enrollment and review amendments.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 155 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR enrollment are adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Senator.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 155 be advanced to DNR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 155 is advanced. Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Slama, 460, I have ENR amendments, first of all.
Senator Slama for motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 460 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR enrollment is adopted.
Mr. President, Senator Howard, I have AM 1505 with a note you wish to withdraw. Mr.
So
President, Senator Howard would move to amend with AM 1592.
Senator Howard, you're welcome to open on AM 1592.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, colleagues. As a reminder, LB 460 codifies our new fingerprinting and background check requirements under federal law for both staff of child care providers and staff in residential facilities serving wards of the state in our child welfare system. Currently, the state is out of compliance with federal law, and we need to pass this bill in order to come into compliance and avoid significant financial penalties. That's about $32 million on the child care, on the 4E child welfare side, and about $2.5 million on the child care block grant side if we do not pass this bill. As for the amendment, AM 1592 makes a few important technical changes. It changes the start date for the new fingerprinting requirements in our child care program from September 1st to October 1st, 2019. It aligns the dates in the bill with the operative date of the law. Sections 2 and 4 of AM 1592 clarifies that all background checks must be done not less than once every 5 years. And finally, Section 3 clarifies that the refusal of consent to any of the background checks for making a materially false statement in connection with any of the background checks makes an individual ineligible for employment by a child care provider. We've reviewed these changes with the department. They support the amendment, and just as a point of clarification for our friends at CAFCON and Boys Town, the department is interpreting the background requirements to apply only to employees working in the child care facility or with unsupervised access to children, and not to everyone in the entire business. I appreciate the body's consideration of this technical amendment to LB 460, and I would urge its adoption on the floor today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Howard. Seeing no one wishing to speak, Senator Howard, you're welcome to close on AM 1592. She waives closing. The question before us is the adoption of AM 1592. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
33 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Howard's amendment.
AM 1592 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Senator.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 460 be advanced to the hour for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say no. Nay. LB 460 is advanced. Mr. Clerk, next item.
Mr. President, 460A, Senator Howard would move to amend the bill with AM 1586.
Senator Howard, you're welcome to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. AM 1586 clarifies the impact of the fingerprinting to the state. We worked with the department to get this fiscal note as low as we possibly could and used as many federal funds as possible. But due to the anticipated volume of additional fingerprints that will be needed to get us into compliance with federal law, the State Patrol will need to hire about 14 additional staffs, purchase additional scanners and equipment, and rent additional space. Costs are expected to exceed revenue by $500,000, and then it will go down because they're one-time costs, and then it will go down. We certainly worked with the department and PRO to get this fiscal note as low as we possibly could. Unfortunately, if we don't pass 460 and we don't pass 460A, I will remind the body that we will discontinue receipt of our child welfare 4E funds, about $32 million annually, and we will have a penalty on our child care block grant of about $2.5 million if we do not pass this A bill and 460. So I would urge its adoption on the floor today. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Howard. The question before us is adoption of AM 1586. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
29 ayes, no nays on adoption of Senator Howard's amendment.
AM 1586 is adopted. Senator Breezy would like to welcome the following guests. They're 36th, 8th grade students from Ord Junior Senior High School in Ord, Nebraska. They're seated in the north balcony. Would you please stand and be recognized by the Nebraska Legislature? Thanks so much for coming and visiting. Mr. Clerk.
460A, Senator, I have nothing further on the bill.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 460A be advanced to the hour for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 460A is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
184, Senator, I have ENR amendments, first of all.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 184 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ENR amendments are adopted.
Mr. President, Senator Friesen offers AM 1470 to be handled by Senator Geist.
Senator Geist, you're welcome to open.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President, members of the legislature. I urge your adoption of AM 1470 to LB 184. There are 4 minor changes to the bill that was advanced on general file. 3 of them are non-controversial. We changed the word permit to permitting in describing the process at the Department of Transportation. We strike the word polls and insert a poll in one place. We insert the word to after and in a provision dealing with issuance of permits. The only controversy at all is in the change to the defined term applicable codes. Our amendment strikes or and inserts and in a provision describing how these codes, which mean uniform building, fire, safety, electrical, plumbing, or mechanical codes, operate. The amendment would require the codes to be adopted by the authority and be generally applicable in the jurisdiction. I urge you to adopt this amendment.
Thank you, Senator Geist. Senator Kavanaugh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I wanted to speak on this bill one more time since it's on select file. I spoke on it in general file and in our committee. I'm opposed to this bill because I believe that it is an overreach of this legislature to be negotiating contracts for corporations on behalf of our municipalities. I don't believe that that is the role of the government, and when we talk about too much government and too much being put into our statutes, I think LB 184 is an example of that. This takes away the ability for our municipalities to negotiate their own contracts and really prescribes in a great amount of detail what goes into those contracts. And I don't view that as the role of this body. I think that that's something that we should allow our local authority to do. So with that, I will just let everyone know that I will be voting red on this, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Senator Kavanaugh. Seeing no one wishing to speak, Senator Geist, you're welcome to close on AM 1470. She waives closing. Question before the body is the adoption of AM 1470. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
27 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Geist's amendment.
AM 1470 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 184 be advanced in for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. LB 184 is advanced. Next item.
Legislative Bill 478, Senator. I have ENR amendments first of all.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 478 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendment is adopted.
Senator Vargas would move to amend with AM 1507.
Senator Vargas, you're welcome to open.
Thank you very much, President and colleagues. AM 1507 adds an E-clause to LB 478. As a reminder, 478 is a bill that prohibits the use of consent by a minor as a defense or mitigation of damages or liability in civil actions arising from sexual assaults. I'm thankful that this bill advanced onto select file with without any no votes. The issue is brought to me by a constituent who has experienced the harmful repercussions that the defense can have on this victim and their family. And after listening to the horror stories from my constituent and those across the nation, and understanding that this defense is still being used as I stand here today, I decided to add an E-clause to 478 to ensure that children of our state are no longer being susceptible to victim-blaming loophole in our current statutes. One more day that we allow this loophole to exist is another day where a child victim could be told they should know better when an adult molests them. I urge your adoption of Amendment 1507, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Senator Vargas. Seeing no discussion, you're welcome to close. He waives closing on AM 1507. The question before us is adoption of AM 1507. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
34 ayes, no nays on adoption of Senator Vargas's amendment.
AM 1507 is adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Senator.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 478 be advanced in for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 478 is advanced. Next item.
595, Senator. I have enrollment and review amendments first of all.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 595 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
Senator Albright would move to amend with AM 1510.
Senator Albright, you're welcome to open on amendment.
Thank you, Speaker Scheer and colleagues. AM 1510 is an amendment that the Revisor's Office has provided. The purpose of this amendment is to harmonize LB 595 with Senator Pansing Brooks's LB 354, which passed and signed in by the governor on March of this year. The Revisor's Office provided these changes as these changes were outside the scope of the ENR amendments. I thank you for your support of LB 595 on general file and would urge you to adopt this amendment and advance LB 595 to final reading. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Albright. Seeing no one wishing to speak, you're welcome to close. She waves closing. The question before us is adoption of AM 1510. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
35 ayes, no nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of Senator Albright's amendment.
AM 1510 is adopted. Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Oh, wrong button.
Mr. Clerk.
I have nothing further on the bill, Senator.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 595 be advanced to an hour for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 595 is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
LB 96, Senator. I do have enrollment and review amendments.
Senator Slama for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 96 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
I have nothing further on the bill, Senator.
Senator Bossman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Colleagues, Senator Wayne and I and his legal counsel had a discussion on this bill a little bit on the side this morning, and we've clarified most of it, but and I think Senator Wayne spoke to it also on the mic on general file. But I just want to come back and visit it real briefly with Senator Wayne if he'd yield to a question.
Senator Wayne, would you please yield?
Yes. The question that we're talking about, Senator Wayne, we're talking about specifically in small towns, small villages, rural communities, how this is going to apply to them, if this is going to be a mandate, if you will, on the state building code being required to homes and construction for smaller communities, and that if this is going to require them to follow that code specifically, if they can do have their own ordinances or codes to adopt, and the administration of this. My understanding is, as we're talking about this, your intent for this is to help out those homeowners, if you will, because our fire marshals do inspect our commercial facilities. So they are out there looking, if there is not an ordinance for folks, people that don't know that, they do inspect for fire, but they also inspect for building code violations, and that is then, if there are any, those are then given to the State Board of Architects and Engineers for them to take action on. My question was, as we were talking on the side, and as Trevor has given me the state statutes, is this is to provide an opportunity for those who have a home maybe that's constructed that does not follow the state building code, an avenue to come back to get some remediation or some fixes to that with a contractor who built or failed to follow such a code. Is that?
Yes, correct. So it's for those individuals, homeowners who build a home, but it's also to give clarity to insurance companies and homeowners when they live in rural Nebraska or in the counties, that if there is a fire, that there is a code that they can reference for insurance purposes.
So as we're talking about, it's similar like a plumber.
Yes.
For those type of things.
So we do have a plumbing code that's a default statewide plumbing code, but as you know, when you reference building your house and building other homes in the country, they just build them. But in case they're built incorrectly or there's ever a disaster, they can reference back to a code and what that standard is.
Okay. Thank you, Senator Wayne. I appreciate that. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Senator Bossman and Senator Wayne. Mr. Clerk, any items?
I have nothing further pending to LB 96, Mr. President.
Senator Slamba for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 96 be advanced to an hour for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay.
LB 96 is advanced. Next item.
179, Senator. I have no amendments to the bill.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 179 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 179 is advanced. Next item.
418, Mr. President. Senator, I have ENR amendments.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 418 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
Nothing further on the bill, Senator.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 418 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 418 is advanced. Next item.
LB 560 does have ENR amendments, Senator.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 560 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. The ENR amendments are adopted.
I have nothing further on 560, Senator.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 560 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 560 is advanced. Next item.
LB 86, Senator, does have ENR amendments pending.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 86 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted.
I have nothing further pending on the bill, Senator.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that LB 86 be advanced to ENR for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 86 is advanced. Next item.
LB 657, Senator, I have ENR amendments, first of all.
Senator Slaughter for a motion.
Mr. President, I move that the ENR amendments to LB 657 be adopted.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. ENR amendments are adopted. Senator Hunt, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am in support of LB 657, but before we close up today, I wanted to take a little time to share some information with you before this weekend. We have about 45 minutes left on the first round of debate on LB 209 after we closed up early yesterday. So by the time this is back up on the agenda, we'll have had 5 days for the lobby pushing this bill to circle the wagons and get everybody back in line for cloture. So LB 209, the quote, abortion reversal bill, is not about informed consent. It's the Nebraska legislature giving medical advice without a license and interfering in the doctor-patient relationship based on a concept that has no scientific basis. A healthcare professional licensed in Nebraska can be held legally liable for the advice they give. And if the state is backing pseudoscience in statute, are we going to have the same standard for ourselves? The state shouldn't mandate that doctors inform patients about potentially dangerous experimental treatments that haven't been studied, that haven't been FDA approved. It's junk science. When we were debating this yesterday, I didn't get time to address a couple points of misinformation that I wanted you all to hear before we break and before we all leave for the weekend and get this off our minds. The American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists and the American Medical Association does not support the use of progesterone to, quote, stop a medication abortion because the treatment does not meet clinical standards, it has not been scientifically evaluated, and it's not FDA approved. The FDA has not evaluated the claim that abortion can be reversed. Many people also said that this bill is pro-science, that it's pro-choice, but do you think that giving women, pregnant women, whose unborn children, whose fetuses that you care about, do you think that giving them and their babies an experimental, unproven treatment that is unapproved by the FDA is pro-science or safe or good policy for us to support? If we're pro-science, which this bill isn't, and we believe women should know their options, then this isn't something that we can support. I spoke to many colleagues in the hallways, in the elevators, off the mic, under the balcony, and a lot of people have come to me and said, you've made some good points, and it's made me reconsider the bill, and I wish I hadn't signed on to it. And I think that that speaks to something very important because I appreciate that people have anti-abortion beliefs. I understand that you're going to bring bills that reflect those beliefs. I do the same thing. I don't fault you for that. That's really fine. And I don't have any impression that I can change your minds about that, and I'm not going to try to. But we cannot bring bills that are based on pseudoscience and put bad science into statute, because that makes the legislature liable. I want to talk about the journals that this research that you think is true was published in. The whole basis of the bill is the idea that abortion can be reversed. The work that the Judiciary Committee did to take that language out of the bill, it basically makes the bill meaningless because doctors already give informed consent to their patients. But when we hear our colleagues testify, or not testifying, but talking on the mic about we have to support this bill because we know abortion can be reversed, because progesterone works. Those are claims that have not been medically evaluated. So it's really okay if you are anti-abortion. Senator Albright, unfortunately, this just isn't the right bill to address that issue. There are other things we can do to reduce abortion. There's other things we can do to support women who regret their decisions. And all of my colleagues who do value science, who value evidence, let's put a pin in this bill. Let's think over the weekend about what the New England Journal of Medicine said about the completely unfounded claims in the Delgado study that the basis of this bill is completely about. Put a pin in this bill, say, do we need to pass this year? Maybe you want to come off cloture for that vote, and wait until we have evidence that this is even possible before we move forward putting Nebraska on a bad track. I'm sorry to bring us back to abortion. I know that's not the mood we want to be in, but before we break for the weekend, since we still have some time on this bill, and I know it's coming up early on Tuesday, I wanted you all to think about that this weekend and the value that the legislature is putting on science and evidence. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and sorry for the mood. It sucks.
Thank you, Senator Hunt.
Thanks.
Senator Bossman, for what purpose do you rise?
Point of personal privilege.
Please proceed.
Two things. 4th of May is coming up. Notice my tie. It's a stormtrooper, so may the 4th be with you. Second thing, since we won't be here. Second thing, 90 years ago tomorrow, a significant event happened in the state of Nebraska that greatly affected me and probably thousands of young people and now adults across in the state of Nebraska. See, 90 years ago today, in a house in rural Jefferson County, my mother was born. She spent her life teaching in Fairbury, Nebraska, Chester, Nebraska, and Superior, Nebraska. My mom watches us every day, so she always asks, I didn't see you on the camera today, were you at work or not? So I wanted to make sure today to stand up and say, I love you, Mom, and happy 90th birthday.
Happy birthday, Mom. Moving back to floor discussion. Senator Salami, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President, and happy birthday, Senator Bosselman's mom as well. So just to really quickly address what was just said on the floor, I'd like to note quite firmly that LB 209 is in no way related to LB 657, so I question why Senator Hunt chose to bring it up on this bill outside of wanting to have the last word on this bill on LB 209 because she didn't get the chance to say it yesterday. But just to clear some things up really quickly so that we can move on with LB 657, which I think is a good bill, and I'd like to thank Senator Wayne for bringing and apologize for this little sidetrack we're taking here into LB 209. As amended, LB 209 does one thing. It notes in our statutes that a woman seeking an abortion will be told by her doctor that research indicates mifepristone alone is not always effective in ending a pregnancy. You may still have a viable pregnancy after taking mifepristone. If you change your mind and want to continue your pregnancy after taking mifepristone, information on finding immediate medical assistance is available on the website of the Department of Health and Human Services. All of these sentences are backed by science. This is not pseudoscience. The drug mifepristone is not 100% effective at ending every pregnancy. This is not junk science, and we have spent a heck of a lot of time debating what is just three-sentence change, more or less, in our statutes about abortions and ensuring that women seeking an abortion know that if they take the first pill during a medicated abortion and regret it, that they have the knowledge to go seek medical attention. Now, until Senator Hunt can provide a citation that every abortion doctor in the history of Nebraska, in providing every abortion they've ever provided, has said that paragraph, LB 209 is necessary. This is a pro-life, pro-woman bill, and spreading things that are less than truthful about this bill on a bill that is not associated with it, I think needs to get called out. And again, I'd like to apologize to Senator Wayne for bringing this on his bill, but that needed to get cleared up before we go to the weekend. So thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Slum. Returning to LB 657, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. President, Senator Wayne, you have AM 1541 pending.
Senator Wayne, you're welcome to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is a white copy of the bill, and this I wasn't expecting to get here today, but this bill encompasses the changes requested from the Department of Agriculture, the Attorney General's office, and the Governor's office. So all those changes have been incorporated here. That we didn't turn down any of the changes they suggested. We think it makes the bill better. And with that, I would ask for a green vote on AM 1541 and a green vote on the underlining bill. Thanks.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. President. Members of the legislature, I'd like to ask Senator Wayne a question.
Senator Wayne, would you please yield?
Yes.
Senator Wayne, would you make another itemization of the ones who now, are they supporting the bill now?
They have always supported the bill.
But these are changes they wanted. Who are they again?
The Department of Agriculture, the Attorney General's office, and the governor with the Department of Agriculture. And the changes were around uniform.
Oh, that's right. I just wondered who were involved.
Okay.
Mr. President, I'm glad to see how Senator Wayne will work his legislation, but having been in the world, one other thing before I say that about being in the world, I'm offended when you all mention that somebody had a birthday and they've only been in the world 23 years. And now Senator Bosselman has been here a few more years, so I think until you've at least been here 4 decades, you're not entitled to applause for having been in the world just for a certain number of years. Now, when you reach 80, that is an achievement. I'm just trying to make that clear in the record. But Senator Wayne, here's what I want to mention to you, and you don't have to be at the mic. One of my favorite maxims is this: evil companions corrupt good manners. But sometimes the evil companions have so much influence with the other evil ones who will be involved that it's all right as long as you keep control of the situation and don't allow your good manners to be corrupted. So for him to bring these individuals and the Department of Ag, which I call agony and aggravation when it's hitched to Senator Halloran's committee, it's really worthwhile. And it indicates that on this bill, even though there are fears that people have expressed which are invalid, some old wives' tales which never had any credibility, Senator Wayne took the time to address all of those issues. Others had given input, and this bill now is before us in a form that should allow it to go forward without any opposition, but we never know what might happen along the way. I'm not going to say anything about the tete-a-tete between Senator Hunt and Senator Slama other than this. There are certain ideological positions which are going to be voiced on this floor. I know who the designated carrier of that kind of material is. Everybody knows it. So sometimes when people know that if you hit this button, the jack-in-the-box is going to spring out of the box, and that's what you want, you say, watch this. You hit the button and bingo, there they go. People sometimes are not knowledgeable enough, experienced enough to realize when they're being used. But others who've been around the block a few times recognize it. Now, there were things that I may have stumbled into when I wore a younger man's clothes, to quote Billy Joel. And if I had people who were truly my friend and they saw me stumbling, even though I was well-intentioned, stumbling again and again into something that is going to reflect negatively on me and hurt my credibility and cause me to be dismissed as soon as my voice comes. And my voice begins to sound like fingernails on the chalkboard. They are not my friends if they don't tell me. So sometimes an enemy will say what friends won't, but the enemy is providing a greater service than the so-called friends. You know what they say the slogan is among the mob? Keep your friends close, but your enemies closer. There's a little gazelle. The lions don't like this gazelle because the little gazelle goes wherever the pride of lions is located. And when that little gazelle jumps, that's the alarm for everybody, and the lions know that their cover has been blown. It would be wonderful if human beings could have such a little gazelle who would provide that warning. Now, I'm a member of the pride, but every now and then, even the head of the pride of lions will say something that will help those who ordinarily are the prey. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Senator Bossman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senator Chambers, I listen to words, and you speak words that we need to listen to, and we listen to them often. But you spoke about birthdays here just a minute ago and the honoring of those individuals and that. And I also know you sing, and you do sing quite often on the floor. My mother is 90 years old. Her name is Avis. Would you sing happy birthday to her? Avis, would you yield to a question, Senator Chambers?
Senator Chambers, would you yield?
I'll yield to the question.
Will you sing happy birthday to my mother? Her name is Avis. She's 90 years old.
Ava or Avis?
Avis.
A-V-I-S. A-V-I. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Avis. Happy birthday to you, and many returns of the day.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. I yield my time back to the
Thank you,
chair.
Senator Bossman and Senator Chambers. Seeing no one left to speak, Senator Wayne, you're welcome to close on AM 1541. He waives closing. The question before us is the adoption of AM 1541. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
28 ayes, 3 nays, Mr. President, on the adoption of the amendment.
AM 1541 is adopted. Mr. Clerk.
Next amendment, Senator Lowe, AM 1585.
Senator Lowe, you're welcome to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was expecting my other amendment to be up before this one, but we'll go through this. On general file, no, I thought 1410 was going to come up before.
We can do that if that's
what. Let's do
okay,
1410 first.
Senator, I'm sorry.
Would you like to introduce 1410?
Senator, I don't have a 1410. I've got a 1583 and a 1585.
Stand at ease for a second, please.
Senator, I understand now you'd like to offer AM 1585.
Senator, you're welcome to open on AM 1585.
I am sorry. Yes, I will now open on 1585. I rise again today to encourage my colleagues to on general file, we had a very interesting conversation on this bill and the amendment that became the bill. I believe we are going to continue that interesting conversation on select file as well. On general file, I brought 2 amendments. One I withdrew, the other unfortunately did not meet the body's approval. I'm now bringing 1585. This is a common sense amendment, and I hope it is one that can actually get support from my colleagues. The current language of the bill states that the department may require further testing of non-compliant plant or may require destruction of any non-compliant plants. May. That is an option, a choice. It is very clear to me that these need to be changed to shall. The department shall require an individual to retest the plants. The department shall require the destruction of any non-compliant plants. I believe that this change is something that is necessary. Even with this amendment, I'm not going to support this bill. But if the bill tally remains as we see it on general file, it may be wise for the proponents to support AM 1585. This is a common sense solution to a problem that may become a problem. If these plants are to be destroyed, it should be a shall, not a may. We should not give an option on whether or not they should be destroyed. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. Senator Wayne, you're recognized.
I believe I'm a little confused on what happened a little bit ago. So, Senator Lowe, would you yield to a question?
Senator Lowe, would you please yield?
Yes, I will.
Senator Lowe, is this the original amendment you had on the board when you first started?
Yes.
So you have another amendment that was before this or after this?
That was another amendment that was before you had your amendment, and it just got mixed in with my speech, and I just...
Okay. So was it on the board, or is this the one on the board?
This is the one that was on the board first.
Okay. So you're asking that this amendment destroy the crop?
Yes, destroy the crop.
Is that not in the current bill?
It is a may and not a shall.
And the reason it's a may, so you think we should tell the department what to do all the time, the agriculture department?
I think for this case we should.
And so what if that farmer had a 0.4 and he appealed it and they found out the test was wrong? How does that shall work?
Well, are you saying that the crop went down to a 0.3?
I'm saying that maybe the test was incorrect. That's why we allow appeal process. So if it's a shall, then won't it be destroyed before the appeal is over with? Or does your shall extend to after the appeal?
On my next amendment that I was going to bring, it would extend to all mays.
So we're going to change all mays to shall?
Yes.
Now, last year there was a bill you supported that was the complete opposite from the governor and what the department wanted, where the governor was trying to remove the shalls and allow more flexibility for the department. Or you remember that bill?
Yes.
So we're doing the opposite here.
We are dealing with something that deals with THC level, and I believe it's a valid point.
And is it safe to say that your fear is that this will open the gate to other cousins in relations to the hemp plant, specifically marijuana?
It is one of my fears, yes.
So what if I told you that out of the 28 states that had medical marijuana, 28 states had medical marijuana prior to their adoption of the hemp bill? So they actually had medical marijuana first. It actually is the reverse here. That most states in the United States had medical marijuana before 2014, which allowed, in 2014, allowed hemp to be grown. So they actually had medical marijuana first. So it's not going to lead to something because most states already had it before, and they're actually catching up with what we're trying to catch up with, which is hemp, because it's such a good product and such a good agricultural commodity. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I do agree it is an agriculture commodity.
And do you believe that there is a lot of benefits to hemp and its products?
I do not know the benefits of hemp.
Now, at the testimony the first year you were on the Ag Committee, you recall a professor testifying about all the economic impact, and I believe he is from your district, correct?
He was my neighbor.
So do you think his testimony was true or not true?
I believe he wrote a book on the subject.
So do you think it's true or not true?
There have been books written on subjects, and there have been books that counter subjects.
I agree with that.
1 minute.
So we're not sure is what you're saying, even with evidence pointing otherwise, such as Canada, who has a billion-dollar industry of hemp. We don't think we should be able to compete with our neighboring states. Do you think we should be able to?
I think we should be able to choose what we compete with our neighboring states with.
So should that come from the farmer or should that come from the government?
I would prefer it come from the farmer, but we are doing legislation here today, so.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Senator Lowe. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Lowe, you're welcome to close on AM 1585.
Thank you, Mr. President. Again, this amendment simply changes 3 words. It changes may to shall in 2 different locations. It also changes and to or. The policy concerns on this amendment should concern opponents of the hemp, of legalizing hemp, as well as the proponents. With the way the language is currently written, the department may require a retest of hemp that had THC levels above the 0.3%, and the department may require the same hemp plant to be destroyed. Proponents did not address this during general file. We are told that the plants that were tested above the 0.3 will be retested, and if the tests fail, then the plants will be destroyed. However, the wording in this section of the bill does not use the same force of language. It makes it an option. It makes it a choice. My amendment, 1585, takes that choice away. It changes the language to shall. This change better matches the intentions that the proponents of LB 657 stated last week. This amendment is the process conversation, not a policy conversation. The amendment makes 657 better, should it pass. Again, I am still opposed to LB 657, and I will vote red when it comes to advance it forward. However, this amendment is necessary to improve the bill. If we are at a point where we are going to pass legislation, we should ensure that we pass the best possible bill we can. This amendment does that. I urge you to vote green on this amendment. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. The question before the body is the adoption of AM 1585. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
2 ayes, 19 nays, Mr. President, on the amendment.
AM 1585 is not adopted. Senator Ben Hanson would like to welcome 33 7th and 8th graders from the Oakland Craig School District, located in Oakland, Nebraska. They're in the north balcony. Would you please stand and be recognized by the Nebraska Legislature? Mr. Clerk.
Senator Lowe would move to amend with AM 1583.
Senator Lowe, you're welcome to open.
Thank you, Mr. President. I don't have 1583. This was the amendment that I spoke before, where it changes the mays to shall. I think if we're talking about something that contains THC, we need to talk about this. We need to make sure that things are done properly. Moving it from may to shall will do that. We will make sure that crops that are above the 0.3% are destroyed. It is true that my fear that this bill will usher in marijuana into our state. And that is why I'm up here speaking. As you saw by the last vote, I stand almost alone with just a few. And I believe those few people care about what is going to happen to our state in the near future. So at this point in time, I want you to vote green on AM 1583 and then no on 657. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. Senator Chambers, you're recognized.
Thank you. Mr. President, I've listened very carefully to what Senator Lowe said. He said he fears something about this bill leading to other things. I would like to give him something that will set his troubled mind at ease. Senator Lowe, you have nothing to fear but fear itself. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chambers. Seeing no one in the queue, you're welcome to close on AM 1583. Oh, excuse me, Senator Wayne, you're recognized.
Just wanted to, thank you, Mr. President. I just wanted to make sure people understand to vote no on this. But to your fear, looking at our 50 states, 28 states had medical marijuana programs before they had hemp. 5 states enacted both of the same year. 9 states have hemp programs with no medical marijuana programs. The data doesn't support the notion of your fear. Now, I don't know if you always believe in data, but that's the data. And we all care about our state. So all vote no and allow this industry to grow and go forward. Thank you, Mr. President. Please vote no.
Thank you, Senator Wayne. Seeing no one in the queue, Senator Lowe, you're welcome to close on AM 1583.
Thank you, Mr. President. 1583 is another amendment that looks at the procedure issues and is not really about the policy of the bill. I want to look at how the law would be implemented as written and not about the arguments about legalized hemp. This amendment changes 3 mays to shall. This first change is on page 4, line 6. The change would make the section read, "The department shall adopt and promulgate rules and regulations to implement the Nebraska Hemp Farming Act and administer programs, including, but not limited to, the following shall, not may." Now, usually I would support the use of words may. I carried a bill like this last year that does several things, but one of those things, it does change 2 different shalls to may. I generally support the use of may, and it promulgates rules and regulations because when there is enough information in the statute, then the department should not be required to create rules and regulations. In those instances, it just creates unnecessary regulations. However, I urge you to take a look at the 7 subject matters involved in this section of rules and regulations. The first thing it addresses is practices to maintain relevant information regarding land where hemp is cultivated. Should we give the department this option, or should we expect more information on how exactly they are going to do this? Is there enough information here that we do not need to require more rules and regulations? The next section deals with governing the sampling, the chain of custody, and the testing of hemp. Again, I ask you, there is enough information here in the statute. If there is not, then this would make sense to make it a shall. The third area addressed here is about the destruction of the plants that violate the law. As I looked through this bill, I did not see anything that really explains how that process will work. This should not be taken as criticism of those who drafted this bill. We often leave executive details of this nature to the department. But as currently written, we are not requiring the department to figure this out. We are simply saying they can if they choose. Given the important nature destroying the plants that have exceeded the THC level of 0.3, this procedure appears to be something that needs to be specifically detailed by the department. The fourth section here is another that should probably fall under the shall promulgate rules and regulations. In this area, we are looking at enforcement provisions, including factors to be considered when issuing fines. Now, there are some quality details throughout the bill to look into administrative fines, but once again, I think this is an area where a bit more detail would be valuable once the department has time to consider implementation. The fifth process involves inspectors. Again, it is the question of whether we need even more information on how these should operate.
1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. President. The sixth section is a procedure for submitting required information to the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture. Lastly, the bill allows the department a choice of creating other standards, practices, or procedures required by the Nebraska Hemp Farming Act. Frankly, this is one that probably should stay as a may without having any major effects on whether Senator Wayne is trying to accomplish. The next change in this amendment is on page 9, line 4. Once again, this change is from a may to be a shall. The section of this bill concerns on how the department adopts and promulgates rules and regulations dealing with the approval and denial of applications. The last part of my amendment is on page 15, line 10. Once again, this change is from may to shall. This section of the bill deals with the rules and regulations on sampling and testing of hemp. I believe that this amendment should create an interesting conversation. Should have created. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Lowe. The question before the body is the adoption of AM 1583. All those in favor, please vote aye. All those opposed, vote nay. Have all voted that wish to? Please record.
1A, 23 nays on the amendment.
AM 1583 is not adopted. Mr. Clerk.
I have nothing further on the bill, Mr. President.
Senator Hansen for motion. Senator Matt Hansen for motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we advance LB 657 to E&R for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. The ayes have it. LB 657 is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
657A, Senator, I have no amendments to the bill.
Senator Matt Hansen for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move we advance LB 657A to E&R for engrossing.
Colleagues, you've heard the motion. All those in favor, please say aye. All those opposed, say nay. LB 657 is advanced. 657A is advanced. Mr. Clerk.
Items, Mr. President. Bills read on final reading this morning were presented to the governor at 11:45. Enrollment and Review reports Legislative Bill 149, 532, and 532A to select file. Committee reports. The Revenue Committee, chaired by Senator Linehan, reports LB 289 to general file with amendments. The Appropriations Committee, chaired by Senator Stinner, reports 295, 299 general file, 293 general file with amendments, 294 general file with amendments, 296 general file with amendments, and 297 general file with amendments, likewise with 298. New A bills. Senator Wayne offers LB 86A. It's a bill for an act to appropriate funds to implement LB 86. 600 days by Senator Walls. It appropriates funds to implement the provisions of LB 600. Amendments to be printed. Senator Bowles to 600. Senator Lathrop to 300A. Senator Hunt to 209. Senator Wayne would like to offer a new resolution, LR 107. That will be laid over. Mr. President, Senator Holleran will move to adjourn the body until Tuesday, May 7 at 9 o'clock a.m.
Colleagues, we have one more vote to be taken. Those that are in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. All those opposed? We are adjourned.